After being the runner-up in the Winston Cup Championship chase the previous year, Bobby Allison headed to Speed Weeks in 1982, geared up for another run at the NASCAR crown. Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Yoakman. Welcome to NASCAR Classics, the 1982 Daytona 500. I'm joined by the legendary Bobby Allison. And Bobby, you were heading to Speed Weeks with a lot of high expectations, but with a brand-new race team, leaving Ranier going over to Dyegard. What were your expectations going into Speed Weeks?
Well, I was pretty enthused. I had a lot of confidence in Gary Nelson and Robert Yates. Robert Yates had built engines for Junior when I drove for Junior, and I knew that he really had the handle on the horsepower end of it. And I liked Gary. I had known Gary for a lot of years. I met him in California when he was a real youngster, and had a lot of confidence in him. So I was really hoping that everything would come together and we'd go get him.
Now, Speed Weeks is always a pressure cooker. Teams never want to show everything they have under the hood and with their team. You qualified 7th. Were you guys hiding anything?
The qualifying didn't go as well as I had hoped, but it was pretty close to the front, and that covers the bases for that part of it. So we went from there.
Well, he begins his drive from the 7th position, and when we return, we will drop the green flag on the 1982 Daytona 500. So stay tuned.
Field out of turn number 4. We'll review the starting grid for you again in just a moment. You see one of the safety cars dropping onto the inside and coming down onto pit road. It's Benny Parsons and Harry Gant for row 1. Cale Yarborough, twice a winner here, and Buddy Baker, who won it back in 1980 at the fastest clip ever in the history of this race, in row 2. Row 3 is Terry Labonte and Darrell Waltrip. Row 4, Bobby Allison and Joe Ruttman. Strong candidate, that Ruttman. Row 5, Air Supertex, A.J. Foyt, looking for his first stock car win since 1972 when he won this as well as Ontario, California. Dale Earnhardt's in that row with him, and then in row 6, it's Dave Marcus and Kyle Petty, who never looked better than the 125-mile qualifying races this past Thursday. Row 7, Rick Wilson and Neil Bonnet. What a tenacious driver he is. Row 8, Richard Brooks and Ricky Rudd. Going to row 9, you have Jimmy Sauter and Elliott Forbes Robinson, the former Can-Am and Trans Am champion. Then comes Rusty Wallace and Bill Elliott in row 10. The 11th row, Richard Petty, about where he usually qualifies, and Ron Bouchard, who won that stunning race at Talladega on CBS last August. Row 12 is Jody Ridley and Good Shepherd. Moving to row 13, the great Indianapolis veteran, all the way from 33rd to 2nd there 2 years ago, Tom Sneva, and Mark Martin, 3 times. He's only 23 years old, ASA champion out of the Midwest. Row 14, Joe Milliken and Bobby Womack. Then going to row 15, Donnie Allison and Ty Scott. Row 16, Gary Ballou and Lake Speed. In row 17, J.D. McDuffie, Jeff Bodine. Row 18, Billy Harvey and Lowell Cowell. Going to row 19, Del McCord and Roe Smith. Row 20, it's Buddy Arrington and Jimmy Means. And then in row number 21, Stan Barrett and Tommy Gale stand back. They're about to turn them loose here at Daytona. Benny Parsons nestled on the pole. The 4th straight year that the Harry Ranier 28 car carried his colors to the front position for this race.
More significantly, I suppose, of course, the fact that Waddell Wilson's been the crew chief on that car through all this time and is one of the best engine mans in North American NASCAR racing.
Down they come out of turn number 4. Harry Gant, the Bandit, up on the outside. Benny Parsons, 1975 Daytona 500-mile champion, as a standing ovation greets them at the starting line. As per usual, down to the flag. The green is out. Is underway. From Harry Gant's car, you see his brake as he goes down. Buddy Baker right behind him. Terry Labonte on the inside. Gant going high as he tries to squeeze through for the lead, but no, not to go his way. Benny Parsons goes out in front of number 28. The most dangerous part of the race, these first 15 or 20 laps, as they get up over 195 miles an hour. Cale Yarborough goes to the lead. And right behind him comes Harry Gant. Handsome Harry Gant goes into 2nd place. Richard Petty is moving up through traffic quickly. On the outside of him is Ricky Rudd in number 3. Back out of turn number 4, coming about to complete the first of 200 laps. At the stripe, Cale Yarborough first. Gant is in 2nd. Labonte is in 3rd. Parsons drops to 4th. Buddy Baker is in 5th.
Well, there's 500 miles to go, but you never know. Look at him go around here. here, just absolutely side by side in the most massive draft.
Joe Ruttman riding right behind number 11. That is Darrell Waltrip. Ruttman right there at full speed. Remember, he finished second at Riverside, California. The last race of last year, many say he is the super dark horse of this race. Joe Ruttman, whose elder brother won at Indianapolis back in the early 50s. Harry Gant screaming down the back straightaway in car number 33, right there with Labonte.
Harry Gant's in the lead. So it's no good putting that in-car camera facing front.
He said all he wanted to see from his pictures today was nothing but clear track in front of him. And right now it is clear sailing for car number 33. And there's the picture out of the back window of Harry Gant's car. Right there is Terry Labonte, the young man who won Darlington 2 years ago and gets stronger. And look at him pull up in draft. Inches away at near 200 miles an hour. Incredible pictures.
Absolutely fantastic, and you get an idea from the way that fence is slingshotting by there. These guys are doing about 400 feet a second or close to at that stage.
Better than a football field a second. Bandit still out in front.
Darrell Waltrip going low there as they came around turn 4. Making a bit of a charge to the front. Going across the stripe side by side with Cale Yarborough.
Joe Ruttman going to the trioval to the 18-degree banking. Now watch him as he goes into turn number 1. We're back with the leaders again. He really has to fight that car in turn number 1 at that tremendous speed. Right in front of him is Dale Earnhardt.
You can see his hands struggling with that wheel. Tremendous G-forces at this stage trying to throw that car high up against that outside retaining wall. The two leaders really, really nose to tail. Terry Labonte, car number 44, right there with Harry Gant in that green and white car number 33.
Bobby Allison dropping on the inside.
Petty, being closely following our second camera. And there's something broken away from the car there going through turn 4. It looked like the rear spoiler.
Let's see who it came off from.
It was right
There's a car in the wall. A red shot coming out of turn number 4. Milliken has crashed, and there's cars slithering and sliding down into turn number 4.
But I really think that piece of a car came off one of the front runners, and that must have caused the mayhem further back in the field. And that's Joe Milliken's number 50. Joe Milliken was one of the guys that I had down as an outside shot of winning this race.
There's what came off. Looks like a bumper came away.
It certainly does.
An entire bumper pulled off. There's number 66, Lake Speed from Mississippi. His car battered in the back end. The average speed until the caution was 192 miles per hour. They're coming back to the line. They're coming very slowly up through turn number 4. Number 23, Jeff Bodine has come in, and here are pictures from Joe Ruttman's car as he comes around through where the Holocaust took place in turn number 4.
There was a piece of debris lying in the track there, whatever it was in the first place. It's kind of early for these guys to stop for a pit stop to put any gas in. At this stage, it will hardly be worthwhile. But that really has broken up this field. There's some quite good potential cars got wiped out in that horrendous.
Earnhardt has moved into 3rd. Buddy Baker now in the 4th position. And we're going to have a chance to look in replay as Joe Milliken clambers out of car number 50, the Cliff Stewart car, number 50, Joe Milliken, out of his car. And let's look in replay and see if we can spot what happened here.
There we see the thing flying through the air. See, it definitely came off that first bunch of 10 cars. And I guess it lands on somebody. Yes, it hits Joe Milliken right in the windshield there. Is that Milliken that finally loosed
Yes,
it
was. It was Milliken.
It landed right on his windshield. Well, no wonder he lost control. And as you can see, he sets up the most tremendous dust and smoke screen, which makes visibility for the people behind him almost impossible. And then before you know where you are, there's cars just going everywhere.
It's the bumper off car number 88, they say, the Allison car. Here's Ned Jarrett.
Gary Nelson is the crew chief on it. Gary, what was the problem?
Well, Bobby told me somebody bumped him from the rear, turned him sideways, and apparently knocked the bumper off.
Are you bringing him in?
We're not. We're having Bobby pulled up alongside of another car to have him look at the quarter panel to see if the tire was rubbing. If the tire's not rubbing, we're going to stay out.
Okay, so it must have been a pretty clean-cut bumper coming off of there, Ken. That's unusual to lose a bumper in a Daytona 500, but you never know what's going to happen next.
It seems pretty unusual for a bumper to fly with these guys touch all the time, and I would have thought it would have taken. Let's see if we can see if touch.
They say we have another replay, and we may actually see Allison getting touched. Who says these guys don't get together out there? There's Cale right behind the 88. And there's the bumper disengaging itself. Now remember, they're covering 300 feet a second, so the shot could have come to the back of car 88 before our shot began. Car number 27, Yarbo right there. Now they're picking up lake speeds. Car number 66.
Certainly looks as if the bumper came off on its own.
Here is Ned Jarrett with Joe Milliken.
Joe Milliken was driving. The car number 50 was involved in that altercation. Joe, what happened there?
Well, Ned, I don't know. I seen something, something fell off somebody's car and was sliding across the racetrack. And I run across it and blew the right front tire out, and then I hit the wall.
It was a bumper off of Bobby Allison's car.
I didn't know what it was. I seen it sliding on the racetrack, and just as I run across it, blew my right front tire out, and I just hit the wall.
You seem to be okay, though.
Yeah, it tore the car up, and I'm all right.
Well, that's too bad. He was running awfully good. Had high hopes here today of a good finish.
Joe Milliken, who has raced here 3 previous times in his 4th Daytona 500, 31 years old, a protege of Richard Petty, had actually won a Sportsman 300. That's the prelude race that they operate each Saturday before the Sunday 500. And he has had some consistent finishes over the years. Over half of the 67 races that he's run, he finished in the top 10. We're under caution with 6 laps complete, and Harry Gant leads the Daytona 500. After a horrific crash, we are still in our caution period, the first one of the day, coming in lap number 3. Ned Jarrett is standing by with one of the victims of that accident.
And it's Lake Speed who was driving the car number 66. Lake, how did you see it happen?
Well, I was just kind of watching the traffic in front of me, really trying to wait until everything sorted out before I tried to make any moves. And coming off the 4th corner, I looked up in front of me and I saw a car turn right like you said now into the wall. I knew there was going to be a lot of traffic, so I started checking up and waving to the people behind me to slow down. But I had to get in that smoke. As you see all that smoke, I entered it and didn't know what was going on. About that time, I got clipped from the back end, and it spun me, turned me and got me going across the track into the wall. You see right there where I got clipped in the back end and turned me.
You were sort of at the mercy of whatever was going to happen right there.
Yep, when that smoke, I went into that smoke and I knew, well, whatever is going to happen is going to happen. And about that time, I felt I got a lick from the back.
Lake, how were the track conditions before this happened?
Everything was fine. The car felt fine to me. I think everybody was more or less just sort of waiting until it kind of lined out, and then they started making the moves.
Well, we're sorry you had this problem here this early in the race, but glad you're okay.
Well, thank you. I'm just sorry for my sponsors, the King's Inn, and all the other people, Roger Hamby and the crew, that did such a good job of preparing the car before I got down here. And, we made a really good run in qualifying, and we really hope to do a lot better.
Well, Ken, this fella could qualify for a commentator the way he described that accident there.
Indeed he could. 34-year-old Lake Speed, the 1978 World Karting Champion, running his first Daytona 500 a year ago. He won the consolation race but failed to make the 500. Number 23 is being pulled back behind the wall. That'll become the 3rd car to retire after that incident. And the left rear quarter panel on the Bob and Richard Bear car from Oxford, Maine, being driven by Jeff Bodine, becomes the 3rd car out of the race. And you can see they're still picking up debris up in the banking of turn number 4, David.
And there you see that guy. It gives you some idea of just how steep that banking is when you see that man standing on it.
Minus a bumper. Traffic violation there for car number 88.
Absolutely. I feel particularly sorry, I must add, for Lake Speed. I came down here on the same airplane as him, kept bumping to him in all sorts of odd, dark bars. And I'm sorry to see him out of the race and out of Daytona so soon.
3 cars have gone back to the garage area, and now I believe we're going to see a 4th come out. They're reporting that Billy Harvey also will retire with an engine problem. And we also have a report there are 2 cars with cracked windshields. One is number 02, Mark Martin. Originally came out of Arkansas, now out of New Albany, Indiana. And number 17 car is also Lowell Cowell's machine, showing a cracked windshield. Here's the bumper missing on the back of car number 88, Bobby Allison. When you see these cars perched up on the 31-degree banking, it's fun to look at from here, but from inside those race cars, it's a totally different perspective. We asked Tom Sneva about the visibility from a race car on the banking of the Daytona Speedway.
Well, you don't see much once you get into the banking, so it's very important to take a look before you get to the corner. Look across the racetrack and see if there's any trouble developing, because once you get onto the banking, the vision is very limited.
Less than what, 300 feet, David?
I would say about that, yeah. It depends how low your windshield, the roof line comes, of course, the blanking across the shield. But it is very difficult, and as he says, you've got to have a jolly good look before you get there to make sure it's clear before you arrive.
There is the picture from Joe Ruttman's car number 2. Ruttman out of Upland, California, with a car that has been strong all through the week through time trials and the 125-mile qualifying races on Thursday. And as we come toward 10 laps, let's review how the cars are running out here at the present time. Harry Gantz, number 33, is up on the point. Terry Labonte is in second. Bobby Allison maintains third. A little tentative out there now without that rear bumper. It should have an effect on the aerodynamics.
It will. It won't help him at all.
The fourth place car overall is Dale Earnhardt. Running fifth on the field is Buddy Baker. The sixth place car is Cale Yarborough. Seventh is Waldrip. The eighth place car was the man who sat on the pole, Benny Parsons. Then in ninth is Joe Ruttman, from whom you just saw those pictures. Then in the 10th position is Kyle Petty in number 42. The 11th position is Neil Bonnet, while resting 12th is Dave Marcus. 13th overall is Ricky Rudd, and 14th is A.J. Foyt. Once again, here's Ned Jarrett.
Billy Harvey just pulled into the garage area in car number 31. They're working on the car there, Billy. First one went wrong.
Well, at the beginning of the race, when we started, the motor started missing a little bit, and then it tried to act like it wanted to clear up, and we kept going, and then just before that caution come out, it just down the back straightaway, the motor just died on it.
Well, he's working on it. Will he be able to fix it?
We're trying to see if it dropped a valve or not. If, you know, we're not sure, at this time, we're not sure what it is, and we're hoping we can fix it to get back out.
Well, of course, he's losing a lot of valuable time. Now let's go to pit road and Larry Newber.
Well, Ned, I'm in Cale Yarborough's pit. This is Tim Brewer, the crew chief, and Tim, you got some more information on the beginning of that incident, do you not?
Well, Cale said that Bob and he touched, but I got a feeling that somewhere along the lines that bumper was intended to come off, and I don't know, in what manner it was, fastened on the car, but it wasn't fastened on there good enough to stay.
As near as you can tell, is your car still in perfect working condition?
Well, it didn't hurt the car, and it might have damaged some of the front sheet metal, but the car's pretty much still intact. It's, didn't damage our car, but the bumper went right over the top of Buddy Baker's car, and that's wanting an awful lot to want to win that way.
Well, Ken, an early incident for a couple of the top runners, but it looks like Cale is okay.
Well, there you heard it from Tim Brewer, claiming that bumper was set to come off, perhaps to help the aerodynamics. Is that what he's saying, David?
Well, I think he's saying it's set to come off to upset the field. I can't imagine how it would help the aerodynamics. It can only hinder the aerodynamics. And if what he says is, if he really thinks what he says, I mean, that's a pretty serious accusation to make against another team.
I find that hard to believe. Here they are coming down. Look at the monitor again. It's car number 50, Milliken, in the Cliff Stewart car. Wraps the outside retainer solidly, and behind him, that evasive action. Now, Richard Petty has fallen back to 19th. He really got on the binders. He wasn't going to take any chances.
And as usual, Richard Petty just managed to get away with it here at Daytona. I guess, his all-time favorite track. The cars have got one lap to go on this caution before they come up to the green flag again to continue the running of this Daytona 500. 11 laps have now been completed. Only 189 to go.
27.5 miles down to the Daytona 500. $925,000 at stake, and there you see the story, which isn't very much at the present time. After an exciting start, 2 laps of really good racing, caution coming on here, and Harry Gant continues to stay out in front. We have a couple of cars on pit road. That is Morgan Shepherd in car number 98. Won his first Grand National race last year at Martinsville, Virginia. Buddy Parrott, you saw the crew chief pounding on the side of the car to indicate to Morgan to get out there and get with it. Here he is coming back on the track. Morgan Shepherd ran for Rookie of the Year last year and placed second to Ron Bouchard, who's out here this afternoon in car number 47, making his first Daytona 500 appearance.
Ron Bouchard, of course, won the Talladega 500 last year, seen on CBS television, and has been running very well this week. Made a very good dash in the Clash last week, and I've got high hopes for young Ron Bouchard.
All right, we're ready for resumption as they come around to complete lap number 12. It's number 33, the Bandit, Harry Gant, in the green and white livery, coming down to the stripe as we are ready to resume the great American race. And there's the picture from Harry Gant's car as they scoot down through the tri-oval and go for turn number 1. Down to the inside, drops Bobby Allison. Allison pulls up alongside. He's going as he goes right up, and you're watching Bobby Allison from inside Harry Gant's car take first place. Terry Labonte dropping back to third, holding on in there. Dale Earnhardt is fourth.
Now, this will would be a good opportunity to have a look at that bumper damage from close up, but old Harry Gant's not standing that too long, and he's right alongside him again as they go into turn 3 at the end of that fast back straight, going close to 200 miles an hour here, and there's Dale Earnhardt coming up on the inside.
To second place, Allison on the outside in third. Buddy Baker back there just a bit. Labonte is in fourth. Then Baker is in fifth. Back they come.
Earnhardt slipped into second spot. Terry Labonte is alongside him as they go over the line.
Bobby Alvaro is sixth. Darrell Waltrip runs in seventh. Back at turn number 1. Eighth place car, Benny Parsons. Ninth place car, Joe Ruttman. Richard Petty beginning to make some maneuvers out of that 19th position. Here they are in the back straightaway. And another pass for the lead is going to put Dale Earnhardt, who had a dismal 1981, 1980 Grand National Champion, made over $500,000. And then he went cold in 1981, didn't score a victory. Hoping to change all that this afternoon.
Back in turn 3, I think Kyle Petty is going to come into the pits. His father just passed on the back straight, and Kyle Petty is down and coming into the pits. This is going to be a big disappointment for that young man, as Dale Earnhardt takes the lead here.
Dale Earnhardt out in front. Kyle Petty, who drove a magnificent 125-mile qualifying race in the pits. Here's Ned.
They're changing the left side tires. Apparently they had one going down. A tough break here for a young fellow that had his hopes very high here today. The left front is the one that's giving the problem. So apparently he ran over something during that caution period. The tire did go flat. He's going back now. He wants to stay in the lead lap, but can he do it not being in the draft?
He's going to have to go like hell because he just crossed the start-finish line as the leaders come onto lap, come down to the start-finish line. Right on which
a caution flag is coming out. That's going to save Kyle Petty. Allison whips across the stripe as they took caution, and Kyle Petty is redeemed from a one-lap deficit. As you look at Harry Gant in the Bandit, car number 33. Harry, who had been leading, now is propped up in fourth spot, right in front of Buddy Baker.
Well, they brought that caution flag out for what looked like a piece of aluminium, or aluminum as you'd call it here, on the track right under the start-finish line, and of course right under our box. But it was in fact a piece of silver tape, silver duct tape, which of course does keep Kyle Petty on the same lap as the leader. How very fortuitous the debris is on this track sometimes for some people. Oh, Kyle Petty's car doesn't sound right.
Engine sounds really odd.
As he went round here, his engine didn't sound right at all.
15 laps are now complete. 15 complete. 87.5 miles down.
There we see one of the course workers going out and picking up a piece of rubbish that was on the track. That might have been a piece of aluminium. Does aluminum come from Alabama? Here they come down to the line, and Bobby Allison, the bumperless Bobby Allison, leading from Dale Earnhardt.
Let's go back to Ned Jarrett.
We're back in Bobby Allison's pits with Gary Nelson, the crew chief on the car. Gary, first, the loss of that bumper doesn't seem to affect the aerodynamic of the car.
Well, Bobby and I are just now discussing it. He says it changed the car. I haven't found out yet how serious it is.
Gary, there were some implications by a crew member of another team that maybe it was planned that way, that you wanted that bumper to come off.
No way. That's a very dangerous situation. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't risk anybody's life that way.
Well, that's the story from the Bobby Allison pits. They have not decided absolutely if they're going to bring him in this time. Bobby's going to converse with them a little bit more on their two-way radio.
In the back straightaway, you see the safety car has picked up the field with Allison on the point, Dale Earnhardt running in second. Earnhardt yesterday won the Prelude to the 500, the Sportsman 300. Earnhardt winning with Jody Ridley second and Sam Ard third. So again, he has found victory lane after that very shallow season he had in 1981. The third place car on the track presently is Cale Yarborough. Maintaining fourth position is Harry Gant. Buddy Baker sustains fifth out here with 16 laps complete in the Daytona 500. Ready for resumption under green. They are working the 18th lap. When they come by, they'll have completed 45 miles, and they'll be back in a green flag condition with Bobby Allison in front and Dale Earnhardt nipping away in second spot. Earnhardt, one of those Ford Thunderbirds. A They have been drafting well, but they seem to be a little off and they have to run by themselves. Here they come, down for a start. Safety car circulates out of 3 and 4, and we're just about set to turn them loose as we look out of Joe Ruttman's car another time as he moves to the line. Joe Ruttman's automobile coming down, running back in about 9th or 10th position now. Green is out. Ruttman from his nice spot make a move on the outside. You see him go all the way up to the wall. He's the yellow car close to the picture. Now he dives down a bit as he comes out of the tri-oval and moves in behind number 71. Another one of those 7 Stacy cars in the track. They're lined up like on parade, those Stacy mobiles.
That was Dave Marcus who went round the outside of Ruttman as they went to the tri-oval here. Ruttman made up 2 or 3 spots there, making a very good restart this race.
Joe Ruttman has a Valentine to his wife attached to the automobile. As you look at it there, it says, "Hi, Harpo." That's his wife and kids. Happy Valentine's Day from Father Joe at better almost 200 miles an hour as he heads around the speedway.
It happen in America.
Allison still first. Earnhardt still locked to him in second place. And look at this 20-car freight train down in turns 1 and 2.
Well, an old bumper loss doesn't seem, unless it weighed about 200 pounds. And he's had a quick weight loss, but it seems to be not affecting his car too badly. But I can't believe it's as good as it should be.
There's Bobby Allison, the man up in front, in the white and green car, number 88.
Dale Yarber there, number 27, running in 3rd spot. He's going to be a tough guy to beat today because he's been running consistently well all week. Hasn't been making a big show of it. I can tell he won his qualifying race on Thursday. I wouldn't be, if I was a betting man, I wouldn't be keeping him out of my mind. Just look at that freight train now.
And Buddy Baker in that red car, who's been here since 1961, won this race in an incredible time of 177-mile-an-hour average. I tell you, these fans have something to watch today and to cheer about. Bobby Allison in car number 88, holding that lead from Dale Earnhardt in the Ford. They go down the back straightaway. Allison driving the Buick just on the point, but here comes the Thunderbird down to the inside as they go to turn 3.
In fact, a 24-car draft, and there's 2 other cars just a little bit away, so you could make it a 26. Ron Bouchard just clipped the wall then in turn 3. A light touch, but I'm sure he touched it. Look at this. Well, 26-car draft. He comes across the start line.
Here's Harry Gant's car, number 33. He's running in 5th position. Gant now in 5th spot. Out of his back window. You look at Terry Labonte staring into his rear view mirror. Here's Labonte trying to move to the inside. Harry Gant throws him a block, stays up in front, and there they are on that long back straightaway where, if you dare, you take a breath. Now we have Cale Yarborough going in first, Allison the second. Let's go to Ned Jarrett.
Ken, we talked at the top of the show about A.J. Foyt coming back here today after that injury. Donnie Allison is in a similar position. The folks watched on CBS from the World 600 last May when Donnie was injured, and this is the first race that he has run in since then. We're standing with Harold Fagan, who's the crew chief of that car. Harold, have you heard from him? How's he doing?
Oh, he used to talk to me on the radio. He says everything's going fine. The car feels good. He said he's just going to sit there a while and ride and try to stay with the lead pack. And then if we're lucky enough to be around 100 miles to go, I think he'll be right to pick it.
Has he said how he feels?
He feels good, you know, and he's happy the way we had a lot of problems early in the week with engines and stuff. We've got some good engine in there now, and everything's going good, and he's pretty confident. He just wants to sit and get his bearings after, you know, his wreck and all that. And I think, you know, like I said, if we're around with 100 miles or 200 miles to go, I believe he'll be right up there running.
Well, time will tell on that, but Ken, he, like A.J. Foyt, was very anxious to get back in a race car.
Back they come to the tri-oval to complete the 23rd lap. Right up around 192-mile-an-hour average. These 3,700-pound cars. It was Gary Smith that wrote velocity times mass equals awe. Boy, it's short through here this Daytona 500. Allison still in front. Yarborough in second. Earnhardt maintaining third. We have an engine going in turn number 4. Car slowing on the outside, or the turn 2. On the outside of the second turn. A car began to lose an engine and slow down, and I think it's car number 13.
That's Richard Brooks's car. car that David Pearson drove last week in the Bush Clash. There we see Richard Brooks.
So that's another Ford.
His car didn't run really very well all week. He hasn't been very, very happy. On the other hand, of course, I'm sure he wanted to stay in the hunt in this race. That last lap was about 191 miles an hour. So these guys really aren't hanging around. If they get a long 20 or 30 lap run, that's a better view, isn't it? Oh no, sorry, there we are. Bobby Allison still leads from Dale Earnhardt. Boy, I bet Dale Earnhardt's feeling happy today because he had a terrible season last season. And Bud Moore hasn't won all that many races over the last decade. And they're looking very, very, very strong here today, and they did in the qualifying heat on Thursday.
There is Joe Ruttman chasing Darrell Waltrip once again. What a square off they're having. That big freight train, and I mean big one. First to 24th position. How about this? First to 24th, 5 4/10 of a second. Here's Larry Newber with the report.
We're in Dale Earnhardt's pit. This is Bud Moore, the crew chief. And Bud, when Donnie Allison ran over that debris, it affected your machine too.
Well, on the lap before, there was a piece of metal came off right at the start-finish line, and Bobby Allison ran over it without no rear bumper and throwed it through our windshield on the right side. So we only have a small hole there. We're hoping it don't give any trouble, but we're prepared to put a windshield in if we have to.
Well, Ken, they're watching it closely, but as all the crews have, there's a spare one right down here.
But of course, it's a time-consuming job. And it's one of those things that if it happens on a caution, you can get it done, and it's a good long caution, fine. But otherwise, of course, it would be a tremendous nuisance.
Dale Earnhardt tucked right in behind Bobby Allison. Earnhardt looking for his 7th career win. Let's have some thoughts from Brock Yates here as we complete 26 laps and what we have seen thus far. Brock?
You know, Ken, we always talk about the young Lions in this race and how sort of fantasize about how youngsters are going to come in here and run with the veterans, but hard fact is it's just not possible. It usually takes from 5 to 7 years to get to run with the leaders in this league, and if we look back over the past decade, we've really only had 3 superstars enter the ranks, Waltrip, Bonnet, now Earnhardt. But we've got one out there now in 6th place. I think the next man, the next candidate. That's Terry Labonte in car number 44. Terry's starting his 5th year in this racing league. He's got Jake Gilder, one of the finest Jeep mechanics in his pit. He's got a good car owner, with a lot of money, and he's getting more and more experience behind his belt on each lap. So I say if that car keeps running, watch out for Terry.
He is now running up in the 6th spot in the U.S. entry in this 24th run into the Daytona 500. Here's Allison looking awfully good. He's terrific out here in the Bush Clash. A week ago, that incredible 50-mile, 20-lap shootout among all the pole qualifiers of the winners of the previous season. This car number 88 just ran on a rail the entire distance. Second place out of the field continues to be Earnhardt, holding on to 3rd. Cale Yarborough. Then comes Buddy Baker in the red car in the 4th position.
And as you can see, these guys, there's Richard Petty at the moment, who's way back in 20th place about. And he's in the 2nd main group. There's the front lead group. We see a side-by-side situation here. But basically, that front 14 cars have stayed together in single file and have managed to pull themselves away from the 2nd group of 8 cars, in which is Richard Petty and Elliott Forbes-Robertson, the road racer, probably doing better here than he's ever done before in car number 96.
That's the grandstand.
In that lead group, right at the back there, is car number 62. That's the guy who's done very well this week, and that's Rick Wilson. He finished 7th in the qualifying. He's running in that front group right now. He's right at the back of it, but he's hanging onto the lead group.
1st to 14th, 1 8/10 of a second. Less than 2 seconds between 1st and 14th as Dale Earnhardt of Kannapolis, North Carolina, in the Bud Moore prepared Ford, a change from a year ago for Dale Earnhardt, stays out in front. Allison about a car length, 2 car lengths behind him in that 2nd place as they wheel to the 4th turn. As they come by, they are completing the 30th of the 200 laps. Let's go back inside Joe Ruttman's car. Joe Ruttman running in the 8th position. Joe Ruttman described the 8 and 10 car drafts through the banking of Daytona for us earlier this week. Here's what he said.
It's just a phenomenal thing. It's just pulling you along, and the car, as you get further back in the draft, the car is controlled more by air than by the driver's steering wheel. So as far as the field is concerned, you're somewhat, as you get further and further back in the draft situation, the car is the air is taking the car versus maybe you driving the car.
Joe Ruttman in 8th position. Directly in front of him in 7th is the car number 11. As they sweep around a lapped automobile, Tommy Gale down on the inside of the track. And now you're looking out the back of the automobile as they continue to keep the hammer down. Around lapped cars. Ruttman running in 8th. Directly in front of him, Waltrip in 7th. Neither has ever won the Daytona 500. There are the men up in front. Earnhardt stays first. Allison lurks in 2nd. Yarborough 3rd. But look for a change right here, David.
Allison yet again takes the lead away from Dale Earnhardt. They're just sort of playing around at the moment. They've got an awful lot of laps to go yet, 170-odd laps to go. So winning these laps really doesn't count for an awful lot. But of course, the idea of the draft is that if it helps you to get together with somebody, if they keep on passing and repassing enough, they could just make a break on Buddy Baker, which would be absolutely great in the event of a caution period, or of course in the pit stop situation. They can pull away. That'd suit them just fine.
Jim Sauter is staying right up with the leaders. He's a protege of David Marcus. He comes out of Ithaca, Wisconsin. And this guy, Sauter has been running off and on a little Grand National racing, but for the most part, he races out in the Midwest, David, on the half miles, in what they call ARTCO racing. And Dave Marcus has been saying for a long time somebody should give him a chance. Finally, Stacy did. And thus far in the race, he's right here in the lead draft.
He is, in fact. He and Rick Wilson are bringing up the back of that lead draft, but the fact remains they are still with it, and that's the key.
The Goodyear Blimp America giving you these amazing pictures of this Daytona 500. Over 120,000, they estimate, have gathered under perfect conditions today to see the running of the great American race. This tradition, this plaque, actually goes to 1901 when they first raced on the beach. Ransom Olds and the Winton Bullet went head-to-head at 57 miles an hour. Here's Larry Newbert.
Well, a year ago, if you wanted to win a pole, you hired Jake Suitcase Elder. But Jake, you found a home with the Levante team, haven't you?
Yeah, right now everything's really good and smooth and everything. I hope we do good this year.
Well, Jake, you crew chief for some of the very best in all of stock car and NASCAR racing. How do you stack up Terry Labonte against some of those all-time greats?
I think the boy's going to do all right because he's like the rest of them young drivers. He's got a lot to learn, but he's getting smarter as the racing season goes on. He'll be all right by the middle of the season.
Well, Ken, Terry's only win in Grand National stock car racing has Speedway, just like Daytona.
Jake Suitcase Elder, who in 1 year worked for 7 different teams. Now there's number 3. That is the Richard Childress car that is being driven this year by Ricky Rudd. And it's a tire change, as you can see. And that's going to hurt his chances today.
Now you can see the crew chief there through the window rapidly working away. He's obviously jacking some weight into that car. He's not very into handling. And that's one thing they can do on these NASCAR cars very, very quickly in a pit stop situation. But on a green, I don't know.
Average speed in the last 10 laps, 20 to 30, was 191.898. 191.898.
We see Dale Earnhardt currently leading this race, or has been for the last 2.5 seconds. Looks like about to have it taken away from him again by Bobby Allison as they sweep into turns 1 and 2 there.
35 laps complete, 165 remaining. There is Earnhardt slowing down dramatically in the back straightaway.
I wonder if he's running the fuel.
Something's amiss, and it looks like a tire may be going down in the car. Very unstable, and everyone's passing Earnhardt up.
Well, I think he's just checking that out. I think he might have run out of fuel, and he's doing that to get fuel to the tank, to the collector tank.
The wild bunch becomes the thirsty bunch out here. They should be pitting in about the next 8 or 9 laps.
Well, they should be pitting now, 30 lap 35, 36, but if he's run out of fuel on lap 35, that's not a very good omen.
True, because nobody pitted in that first caution period.
You see, here's Neil Bonnet. He's coming into the fuel as well. So it's obviously time for the fuel stop.
estimating car number 2, Earnhardt, number 15 Earnhardt. 2 is old number, now being used by Joe Ruttman. And here is Earnhardt coming on to pit road. He was able to squeeze enough fuel in to breathe it down onto the pit road. Let's go to Larry Newberg.
Well, Earnhardt comes to a stop. Not too much panic with the crew. They're checking right side tire. Fuel is going in. There was very little conversation among the crew members as Dale was coming in. The crew members were obviously a little surprised. Dale was in communications with his crew chief, and now the engine is stalled. They are having one heck of a time getting it to refire. The engine is definitely dead. Now it refires. A little bit of quick start being sprayed inside the carburetor through the vents on the top of the hoods, and finally it fires off when Earnhardt is back on the racetrack.
Well, he's gone a lap down. Now Joe Ruttman, who had been running in 8th place, is in as they clean off the windshield and fuel that car. There you see that new netting that they put in these cars this year. Let's go to Ned.
Yeah, these are scheduled pit stops. Most of them will change right side tires, fill it up with gasoline, as they did on Joe Ruttman's car, number 2. He's out on the way. We see farther down the road there, Richard Petty is in for his scheduled pit stop. You know, some of them might not have taken into consideration that they ran a couple of laps under the caution before the green was actually thrown before this race got underway. It's my opinion that some of them are stretching it a little bit too far, and I think that's a definite case with Dale Earnhardt. He just went one lap too many, and it could cost him.
Bobby Allison has slipped back into first place with 38 laps complete. Buddy Baker running in the second spot. Cale Yarborough maintaining third. Let's go to Ned Jarrett.
Jim Sauter was coming in, Ken. He got blocked in, almost crashed into another car that was coming out of the pits, but he used his head and got the car under control. They're changing the right side tires on his car and filling it up with gas, but that little extra time it took him to get into the pits is going to hurt him, and he was running in that lead draft.
Well, he had a bit of a contretemps with Donnie Allison as they came in, and there was a bit of an after-you Claude, no after-you Cecil business went on, and that obviously cost him valuable time. But the one that really lost valuable time was Dale Earnhardt, who ran out of gas coming up turn 2, managed to coast back to the pits, but he lost the full half lap on his coast business, and then, of course, he had the pit stop on top of that. So he'll be well out of the hunt right now at the moment.
Here's Harry Gant coming on pit road. Number 33, Gant. The Bandit was running right up in that lead draft, taking on right side tires. Morgan Shepherd's car is having trouble firing on pit road.
Oh, that's Elliott Forbes.
Sorry, Elliott.
He was doing pretty well too, old Elliott. One of them beat road races. Now you can see already on Harry Gant's windscreen as he goes into that afternoon sunshine that the windscreens here at Daytona particularly get sandblasted. You know, the whole of Florida is just a giant sandbar really, and Daytona's no exception, and it does start to pit these screens. If we want in-car shots, we really want them early in the race because later on they're going to be very difficult.
Bobby Allison, who has been leading all of these pit stops taking place under green. Cale Yarborough is in. Terry Labonte is in. Parsons. Here's Ned Jarrett.
Bobby Allison is in for his scheduled pit stop also, and Ken, they're only changing the right side tires, putting in gas. They're not paying any attention to that rear bumper that's gone. Of course, it didn't seem to affect you too much. A very quick stop for Bobby Allison, but you can see the back end.
Buddy Baker now finds himself in first place. Going into the second position, Darrell Waltrip. And going to third, Dave Marcus, with fourth, Cale Yarborough. Here's Baker getting ready to make his pit stop as Richard Petty continues to meander around the speedway. He has stayed out of that thick battle up in front. Baker, the current leader, comes in, and right behind him comes Darrell Waltrip in number 11. There's a good look at Buddy Baker. Won the fastest 500-mile race in the history of motorsports right here at Daytona. At the same time, Waltrip is in. Here's Ned.
It's another quick tire change, Ken. I believe that's the fastest pit stop we've seen. Darrell Waltrip, the Junior Johnson crew, really got the job done in about 12.5 seconds.
And Darrell Waltrip, in fact, overtakes Buddy Baker. They leave the pits to lead Buddy Baker out of pit lane. And up there into the bank, turns 1 and 2.
They hang out the board for Ron Bouchard, about to make his pit stop. 41 laps are now complete. 41 complete, 159 to go, 102.5 miles down.
Welcome back to NASCAR Classics and our look back 1982 Daytona 500. And Bobby, you were driving around without your bumper from that lap 4 incident with Cale Yarborough.
Looks like a bumper came away.
How was the race car handling it?
Actually, the race car was doing okay. You know, we had tested, and the car was really fast. Without the bumper, it was slightly looser than it had been before that, but it still was driving really good, and I wouldn't have any problem at all.
Now, how shocked were you when the bumper came off?
Well, I was mad and disappointed and shocked, the whole thing. I felt like Cale ran into me quite a bit harder than his version of the story was. On Saturday, the day before, we were getting ready for happy hour, and Joe Gasway, the assistant NASCAR inspector, came by and said, "You guys are cheating. I want you to move that bumper 1/4 of an inch, and you're going to do it now before you go on the track." And Joe was standing back over there just really happy that he'd caused us that much of a delay. And as it turns out, we put it back on with a little 110 welder, which was adequate to hold it on if it didn't get hit, but when it got hit, it was fortunate that it wasn't strong, because if it had been strong, it would have turned me into the outside wall.
And Gary Nelson told me that kind of fired you guys up a little bit.
Well, it did. You know, we're there to race, and we're trying to do everything we can do within the rules, and of course we're going to go all the way to the limit on each one, anything that we thought would help us. We felt really, really abused by the idea that this guy had the authority to come by and say bumper 1/4 of an inch.
Well, now let's go back in time to Daytona, February 14th, 1982.
We have completed 50 laps, 125 miles, with Bobby Allison out in front. Let's go to Ned Jarrett.
Dale Earnhardt just coasted into the garage area. Of course, we heard from his car owner, Bud Morris, what happened to that car, Dale. But, boy, you had to feel awfully bad about what did happen.
I did, Bud. Ford was running real well, and I was hoping we'd win a nothing for Wrangler down here at Daytona, and I think we blew a head gasket. It run out of gas about 5-6 laps before that, and we had to pit and get gas, and it might have leaned it out then and caused it to burn a piston or something.
Well, when he said win another one, he won the Sportsman 300 race here yesterday afternoon in a fine fashion in a shootout down to the wire with Jody Ridley. Dale, 1981 was not a good year for you. After having won the Grand National Championship in 1980, you felt that maybe starting right here today that this would be a turnaround for you.
Well, I thought it would. The car was really working well, and Bud and the guys had it working real well and running well, and I could go anywhere on the racetrack I wanted to, and Bobby and the rest of them was having to back out the throttle going in the corner, and I could run in flat-footed, and the car was just going super.
There's some hard racing going on out there.
There are.
Well, he's able to smile a little bit, Ken. I don't know how after that big of a disappointment.
Well, I got to hand it to him as well. I must say it is terribly disappointing to be knocked out of the race so early. But Bobby Allison in car number 88 seems to have broken the draft with Joe Ruttman in car number 2 there, and seems set sail to pull away. And as long as there's no caution flags and he can continue to do that, it's pretty bad news for the rest of the guys in this race.
Kyle Petty on pit road, number 42. Again, another tire change on Kyle Petty's 42, and he's had his problems from the outset of this race. There's a Kyle Petty fan. That might be a Dale Earnhardt fan.
I don't think he's anybody's fan. He's reading some book down there in the corner.
Someone that's not running too well today, I'm sure. 50-lap rundown for 125 miles. Average speed, 148.466 miles per hour. With Allison in car number 88 continuing to lead. And you're looking inside of Joe Ruttman's car now, the number 9 car. He's back in 13th position and bustling by car number 18, Donnie Allison, at this point. Back here he is in the tri-oval area. There he is going by Petty, Kyle Petty, who's just come back on the track. This is the automobile of Joe Ruttman.
That certainly looks like Bobby Allison's car he's following with that bumper missing.
Number 3, that is Ricky Rudd with a hood up down there.
Yeah, his car's been sounding pretty rough.
Here's Larry Newbert.
I'm with Waddell Wilson, Benny Parsons' crew chief, pole setter 4 years in a row. Waddell, Benny is not running in that lead draft. What's wrong?
Well, the car is loose right now, and hopefully we can get a caution and tighten the car up to where it can run up front.
Now, this is a problem that you've had all week. Have you made major changes on the car? Was it a brand new setup for today?
Well, no, this is the same setup we've run all week, but, you know, in traffic, the car is loose.
Ned Jarrett is at the other end of pit row with another one of the retirees, Rusty Wallace. Ned?
Rusty from St. Louis, Missouri, one of the top rookie contenders this year. What went wrong?
Well, early today when Joe Milton crashed up there, I got in this debris and cut a tire down. I had to pit for 4 tires and put my way down. But later on in the race, the rear-end gear just started to expire, just got hot, and we had to park it for today because of burned rear-end gear.
Rusty, are your plans to continue to run for the Rookie of the Year honors in 1982?
Yes, they are. It's a bad start right now, but it looks like Landon's going to be our next race, so we'll try to make it up there.
Better luck next time around.
Thanks a lot.
Just go back to what Al Wilson was saying. Benny Parsons has had a worry all week. He's driving the Pontiac Le Mans, the same car that Bobby Allison drove last year in this 500. And you remember there was a lot of contention over that car and the height of the spoiler on the trunk lead. Those spoilers are vital for good stability, and they've been given a spoiler that's an inch shorter than everybody else's. NASCAR say this is fair because the car's more aerodynamic, and they're giving them that slight disadvantage. On its own, it runs very, very fast, as he proved in qualifying, but in traffic, he's been a little bit spooked with it all week, and now it's coming home to roost today. The car is loose, and they've got to try and get that back end to plug a little bit more by adjusting the spring weight.
12 cars are running in the lead lap. Bobby Allison currently out in front. Joe Ruttman's car number 2, hanging right in there. Latest rundown, he is pulled up through. They had him for a moment. There's a lap down. They call him the 13th. They're now showing Joe Ruttman in the 2nd position with Labonte running in 3rd. Terry Labonte holds on to 3rd. Then Kyle Petty is a lap or 2 down. The number 42, which is running just behind these 3 automobiles. Ruttman is really a dark horse. Big, lanky guy, about 6'4", all the Ruttmans. Jim, who was here as a mechanic for his brother. Troy, who, as we mentioned earlier, won Indianapolis in the early 50s, were all giants. And there's Parsons in number 28, back in 9th position now, out of the lead draft. Right behind him is Morgan Shepherd.
Morgan Shepherd, who ran for Rookie of the Year last year and just got beaten out by Ron Bouchard. A very, very close run right down to the end. They both won races and they both won pole positions. Pretty unusual for 2 rookies to do so well.
58 laps complete, this time by 145 miles complete here in the Daytona 500 is Bobby Allison seeking his 2nd win in the 500. Stays right up in front, and the dark horse, Joe Ruttman, stays right there in 2nd spot with Labonte in 3rd. 4th position overall is Neil Bonnet. 5th position belongs to Cale Yarborough, while 6th is Darrell Waltrip, and here's Ned Jarrett.
Ricky Rudd has pulled his car number 3 into the garage area, but he's staying in it. They're working on it. Ricky, what's wrong?
Something in the valve train broke, but just to make sure, I think they're going to change the distributor just to make sure so we can go out and finish for the points.
Well, he's hoping that he can get back in there, but he really doesn't seem too enthusiastic about it. Now let's go out to pit road where Larry Newber is in A.J. Foyt's pit.
Well, Ned, I'm standing in front of Jack Starnes, who right now is talking to A.J. on the radio. They've been talking about the last 2 or 3 laps about a variety of subjects. Number 1, the engine is running fine. Number 2, A.J. feels pretty good also. Their problem right now is looseness with the car. The car is not sticking to the racetrack nearly as well as A.J. would like it to be, and they're trying to figure out whether or not they should risk pitting on the green or perhaps hold out and wait for a caution. They'd like to come in as soon as possible.
Well, there we saw A.J. in fact going a lap down as the lead group swept by him. There he is, the orange car, number 51, right at the back of this lead group. As Allison, Joe Ruttman, Terry Labonte, Neil Bonnet, and Cale Yarborough continue to lead this Daytona 500. And A.J. Foyt's dropping back quite considerably. Obviously, a lot of these cars are feeling loose today. Loose means that the back end wants to get away from you, and it can be adjusted only at pit stops.
Let's go to Ned Jarrett with Donnie Allison.
Donnie had to coast into the garage area. What went wrong?
Well, Ned, my oil pressure's been fluctuating real bad for about 15 laps, and you know, as long as it wasn't going too low, I wasn't gonna come in, and it started going down far enough for the light to come on, so I figured I better come on in before I exploded the motor, and they took myself out of the race with somebody else too.
How were you feeling out there?
Well, I was feeling really good. My car got a little loose there one time, but excuse me, when I could get a hold of somebody, I could run real good, and I couldn't run nothing like Bobby and that front bunch did, but we were doing all right, and I felt like if we got this race under our belt, we'd get better.
No problems as far as any of the engines you received last year in the World 600? When that green flag dropped today, really, how was it? Did that come back through your mind?
No, not at all. I haven't thought about it. Unless you guys mention it, I don't think about the accident.
you know, I got my work to do, and that's what I concentrate on.
Did you have any apprehension about coming back?
None at all.
Did you talk to A.J. Foyt about it? You know, he had a similar situation.
I kidded A.J. a little bit. I said, at least you and I got another chance. And, you know, A.J. and I are good friends. I run an Indy with him 2 years in a row, and he and I are good friends, and I'm just glad both of us are able to come back and do this.
Well, Donnie has worked with us on some of our CBS telecasts in the past, and, of course, we're sorry to see you out of here today.
Thank you very much.
61 laps complete. Bobby Allison still in front. Let's go to Ron James.
Ken, as you well know, the aerodynamics at Daytona are sort of a black art, and all the crew chiefs down here have varying opinions on which is the best shape, whether it's a Ford or a Buick or a Pontiac. But today we've got one Chrysler car running out there, Buddy Arrington in car number 67. And believe it or not, there are a lot of guys in the garage area that will tell you that is the best shaped racing car on the track. As it turns out, Buddy doesn't have as much power as some of his competitors. And of course, we know about Chrysler's financial problems, and we can only speculate that when and if some horsepower comes to that Chrysler, we may see some other fellas in it. I wonder about that number 43, for example.
Right now, that number 43, Richard Petty, is running 15th overall on the 60-lap rundown. They are now working the 67 lap. Rundown. This man, Bobby Allison, stays out in front with Rutland in the second position, Labonte in third, fourth is Bonnet, fifth is Waltrip, sixth is Cale Yarborough. And there's the pictures from the second place car as Joe Rutland gets right in the draft of car number 88 and sticks with him to the 18-degree tri-oval as they come by to complete the 63rd lap of competition in the Daytona 500.
Well, if he can just stick in there with Bobby Allison, he's going to be in pretty good shape this afternoon, because Bobby Allison's done so well all the week. He really has, and these two guys are really putting it to the rest of the field at the moment.
We'll be back with more of the Daytona 500 in just a moment. You're riding along with Joe Rutland in second place. Just a Valentine's Day romp in the Daytona 500. You're traveling nearly 200 miles an hour as you see that picture in the upper right of your frame. And right in front of him is the leader, Bobby Allison, number 88. The struggle is for first place between these two, and it's been that way for the past 20 laps. Meanwhile, attrition has continued to build. There you see the standings through 66 laps, with Labonte now in third, Bonnet in fourth, Waltrip in fifth, Cale Yarborough in sixth, and there's the attrition. 12 cars have now retired from the event. 12 cars have fallen by the wayside. You see Donnie Allison out with engine problems, and just in the past moment, Delbert Coward and Morgan Shepherd have also had to come in. Now let's check on those cars running outside of the front four. That battle for fifth position continuing out there. There it is, cars number 27 and 11. The 27, the white, black, and red car, is the MC Anderson entry with Cale Yarborough, twice a winner here in this event, 1968 and 77, holding on to fourth position with the fifth position, Darrell Waltrip. Here are your leaders trying to draw away. Allison, also a former winner, and Rutland trying to upset everybody's apple cart. Here's 44 Labonte on pit road. Terry Labonte pulls down on a pit road.
Well, it is about time for pit stops, so we're going to see a whole rash, I guess, of pit stops on the green here. But it is interesting that our camera car, Joe Rutland, car number 2, is really putting some distance between himself and Neil Bonnet.
Here's Larry Newber.
Terry Labonte is in. The crew was relatively prepared. They were not caught by surprise. It appears as though it was a routine pit stop. They changed right side rubber. That was the primary concern. The car got a new drink of fuel, and Terry drags it away.
There we see out the back of Joe Rutland's car, that car right in the background there. That's Neil Bonnet, number 27, 21, who's running in third position at the moment.
And here's Bonnet coming onto pit road. Number 21, Neil Bonnet, running in third. Here's Ned Jarrett.
They go to the right side to change tires over there, and of course fill it up with gasoline. Crew members are looking across the wall to see how the inside tires look, but their plans are only to change the outside tires. One of the fastest pit crews in the business, the Wood brothers from Stewart, Virginia, and they have the way in 14 and 6/10 seconds.
The leader, Bobby Allison, being shadowed by car number 2, Joe Rutland. Bobby Allison, winner of this race back in 1978, took the lead way up near the end with 4 laps to go. There's Joe Rutland. Look at those hands dancing on that steering wheel.
Well, I tell you get a pretty rough ride around here. This banking looks smooth on this nice TV shot, but I tell you, when you get out there, it's pretty bumpy.
500 miles. 500 miles wrestling with a chainsaw out here. Ruttman at number 2 in that second spot.
Looks like his oil pressure's surging, if that's the oil pressure gauge on the far right of the dashboard. When he went into the banking then, the gauge gave a tremendous lurch.
With the CBS camera in the car, question is it going to bother Joe Ruttman having so many people along for a Sunday afternoon ride?
I would say if I'm doing good, it wouldn't bother me a bit. But if I make a mistake, obviously, a few people's going to see. No, I think it's going to be interesting for people to realize that there's a little more involved in driving the car, and you're a little busier than a lot of people might anticipate. But hopefully we'll give them a good ride through the whole race and do some passing and do some drafting and maybe give them a little bit of excitement along the way.
Well, he certainly doing that. He couldn't be doing better than he's doing at the moment, because he and Bobby Allison are having a race on their own at the moment. And I know what he means about embarrassment, because last October I had the same camera in a car in a race in Australia. And luckily for me, my co-driver got it stuck in the sand. And there you had the inside view as they dug him out.
37-year-old Joe Ruttman stays in second. Petty dropping off to the inside and coming on pit road. One of those two cars. Here's Ned Jarrett.
This is Carl Petty Richard Petty coming down pit road for his regular stop. He drives the car number 43. They changed right side tires like everybody else and fill it up with gasoline, clean the windshield, clean the screen on the grill, give him a drink of water, and he's ready to go as soon as the crew gets ready. Good. And they're making a chassis adjustment on that car, too. One of the crew members reached inside and made a turn on the right rear. Hey, they're changing all 4 tires. A long pit stop, but a different kind of strategy here for the Petty team. The others that came in earlier only changed outside tires. They are taking much longer, of course, to change all 4 tires than did the other teams. He's over 30 seconds now and finally gets away, but that's going to put his way behind.
Here is Joe Ruttman coming onto pit road. Petty had been running in 13th position and in the lead lap when he made that pit stop. Let's go to Ned Jarrett.
They're going to the right side on this one, Ken, and none of the crew members are even looking at the left side tire, so apparently they're only planning to change the right side right now. Now one of the crew members goes in, takes a look at the left rear, says it's okay. A good pit stop, less than 15 seconds for Dale Inman and the crew team, Joe Ruttman.
The Buick of Joey Ruttman going back on the track as Bobby Allison leads and has a little bit of breathing room. The first driver to have any kind of breathing room in the 500 thus far. 73 laps complete. 8 different drivers have shared the lead, and they've swapped that lead 16 times while averaging 158 miles per hour.
And one thing that'll give Bobby Allison a nice bit of room for comfort is he's put Richard Petty, the dreaded Richard Petty, here at Daytona, 1 lap down on that long pit stop for Richard Petty.
75 laps, 187 miles. And there's the picture once again. There's Ron Bouchard and Ruttman squaring off here. Ron Bouchard, who won that incredible 3-car dive to the line at Talladega, Alabama, in the Talladega 500 this past August on CBS. Remember that move? Labonte on the outside, Waltrip in the middle. Well, that yellow car with the Stacy livery was the car of Ron Bouchard from Fitchburg, Massachusetts, that won at the end of 500 miles by 3 feet. Bobby Allison is trying to make it anything but that kind of race today. Ruttman trying to go down the inside. Here's car number 1, Buddy Baker pulling in. Allison still out in front. Checking our position on car number 2, our camera car, as he closes once again. Moves in after these pit stops. Here's Larry Nuber with Buddy Baker.
Well, Buddy Baker is in. Here's the man who won this race just a couple of years ago. Once again, the outside rubber getting all the attention. Of course, every one of these cars needs fuel each time in. A lot of the crews are having trouble getting the fuel cells filled. Now to Ned Jarrett, the other end of pit road.
Here's Ned Jarrett.
Bobby Allison, the leader, is in the pit. The routine pit stop for him. He takes a drink of that Gatorade that sponsors his car. They put right side tires, fill it up with gasoline, clean the windshield as everybody else has done. Petty is the only one of the front runners that took on all 4. Now let's go back to Larry Nuber.
Kel Yarborough is on his way down pit road. The crew moves the wall. They're headed of course by Tim Brewer. The Jackman, Barry Dodson, goes to work tightening up the starboard side of the race car. The windshield is being cleaned as Tim Brewer, the crew chief, goes to work communicating with the second driver, Cale Yarborough. Cale, of course, won this race in 1977. A 6 weeks of fuel, and he's off now. Cale's crew was successful in getting their fuel tank completely filled on the first set of pit stops. They got better mileage than the other top teams, and Tim Brewer told me he felt that was their advantage on the racetrack, Ken.
This is the second set of pit stops under green. Number 11, Darrell Waltrip, had appropriated first position. He is now making his pit stop. Right in front of him, coming out is number 28, or coming in is Benny Parsons, who's been running right up to the leaders in 10th spot in the latest rundown. And we're getting the time here on the pit stop of Darrell Waltrip. Here's Ned Jarrett.
They're changing right side tires on his car too, Ken. And just a moment ago, while Cale Yarborough was in, Harry Gant came in car number 33, and they changed left side tires on his car and knocked the right side. A good pit stop for Waltrip. He is away and running.
15 and 10 seconds.
He's away long before Benny Parsons, our pole sitter. In fact, Benny Parsons' car is very tardy in getting out of the pits.
Cale Yarborough's number 27 back on the track as they pick up the positions after all of these pit stops. Gary Malou is in, and I believe Stan Barrett's car is the next retiree. He would mark the 12th retiree from the race, and Mark Martin may be coming out. Bobby Allison is now being shown as the leader in car number 88 after the second set of pit stops in a green condition. The average speed through 70 laps, we're now at lap number 78. At 70 laps, 170 miles, 75 miles, 158.570, 158.570. Allison again has the first spot. And with these pit stops, number 2, Joe Ruttman is finding himself back in place. This is unofficial now. In the third position will be the number 47 car. And that's the yellow and white car prepared by Bob Johnson and Dick Beattie, carrying Stacy colors. That's being driven by Ron Bouchard. In the fourth position, Tom Sneva of Spokane, Washington, who's been hanging on the lead draft. Just staying around out there today. And the Indianapolis veteran is up in the thick of things at the moment.
Well, Tom Sneva certainly is no stranger to speed. He's been one of the fastest qualifiers of all time at Indianapolis and at the old Ontario Motor Speedway, doing laps at over speed. And this is the first year he's had a really good car, and he's hanging on there extremely well.
Number 88, Bobby Allison. Can he win his second Daytona 500 and take that giant piece of the pie? Today is assessed at some $925,000. There's his last lap average speed, 193 miles per hour, and that's by his lonesome, David.
Well, of course, that shows the value of new tires. You see these guys changing tires very often these pit stops. Well, they're not worn out. They've got quite a bit of tire wear. They could probably do at least 250 miles on a set of tires. But every time you put new tires on, there's just something about them that give you that little bit of extra speed. So for qualifying, for instance, they always run new tires. And there you can see it right there. His very first lap out of the pits with new tires, just on the right side only. He turned to the lap at 193.
They played musical chairs at the end of the season. This car number 88 last year was driven by Ricky Rudd, who's now in car number 3, and the car that set on the pole this year, number 28, now has Benny Parsons at the keyboard. Allison was there a year ago. He's now tied into the Dygaard team, and that car looks strong. Now there's Tom Sneva in that white automobile, number 37, the Alexander car, and that one is running very well today. Sneva stays right with the leaders. He's been working his way along through the field from the start. A year ago he came to Daytona and failed to qualify for this event. Now from Joe Ruttman's car, Sneva is one of those cars behind him. They come down to the tri-oval.
It's one of those white 2 cars in the back, the other one being Neil Monon's car number 21. When we just saw Sneva a few moments ago, he was passing number 47, Ron Bouchard, who's just coming into the pits. It looked like he was slowing down rather early. Perhaps he ran out of fuel as well.
Bouchard is on pit road, number 47. Bob Johnson crew working on the right side. Here's Larry Newberg.
One of the family affairs entered in today's race is the Mark Martin crew. This is Mom Jackie, who watched Mark 3 times be ASA champion, but there'll be no championship today, will there? I said there'll be no championship today like there was with ASA, right, Jackie?
None today, but maybe next week.
Were you pleased with the running of the car till the engine went?
He was running a real good, consistent, conservative race. I don't know what position he was in.
Well, about 2 football fields away from me right now with the prodigy of Jackie is Ned Jarrett with Mark Martin.
And he's one of the smallest drivers on the circuit. He only weighs about 125 pounds, 23 years old, but he can flat handle an automobile. But what was your problem?
Well, Ned, it was, as you know, it's my first time here in a Grand National race car. And, we were pleased with the way we were running. We needed a caution to get 4 tires and gas and get caught back up with a lead draft. I was ready to race with the leaders at that time, right as we were, we had engine troubles, what took us out, though.
You're considered as one of the young lions that's coming along in this sport. Do you see yourself that way?
Well, like I say, Ned, we're learning on the super speedways. We're a new team, and we're just going to try to get going at the next one in Richmond.
Well, he will be a driver to be heard from, Ken, before 1982's over.
Mark Martin, the 13th retiree from this event. He was running in 15th position, that 23-year-old, when he came out. Youngest driver in the race, 21-year-old Kyle Petty. 80-lap rundown is now being assimilated for 200 miles, 200 of the Daytona 500, and it shows 10 cars continuing in the lead lap with Bobby Allison out in front. Joe Ruttman is being shown as second. Neil Bonnet is third. Terry Labonte fourth. Darrell Waltrip holding down that 5th position as they continue to swap. Kelly Yarborough is being shown at 6th, in trouble down in turn number 2. It's car number 59 up against the wall and sliding. Ty Scott of Penargo, Pennsylvania. His Buick automobile grinding off the front end and coming to a rest just out of turn 2. Caution out around the speedway for Ty Scott. Scott making a singular performance here. He's not running the entire season. Just came down here in this car number 59 for the race. A Buick automobile, and the 32-year-old Scott, who's done a lot of short track racing in Pennsylvania, fine dirt tracker, gave a great performance here in 1979 when he finished 6th, is now out of it. In the 84th lap, he crashes in turn number 2, and we'll be able to show you what happened. Let's take a look now. Here's David Hawes.
Well, there's Ty Scott parked up against the wall, but here we see the accident starting. Oh, I don't know what happened there, really. I don't think he was touched by that car underneath him, which was, but he just seemed to lose control, shot across the front of that guy up into the wall, and now you can see him holding it up to the wall, which is the right thing to do in a situation like that, because this is the last place you want to come away from the wall and get T-boned by somebody passing.
Well, this will gather up the front of the field, those 9 cars in the lead lap, and create another Daytona scramble. And from the car camera, we may be able to get another view of what happened. He's already in the wall as Harry Gant went down the inside, David.
Well, Harry Gant's one of those guys that was lucky that Ty Scott did such a good job of holding the car up on the wall once he'd got it there.
Ty Scott, whose best finish was 4th at Darlington in 1979, came down off the wall, as you can see there, several feet.
Just left away, but he soon made sure he got back close to it again. That's where an English bloke hit the wall, you know, in about 1976. Just about the same place.
HOBBS, as I recall. Upper Boddington Flash, they called him.
Something like that, yeah.
Surprised you a little?
It did a bit. The noise was so loud.
I would imagine grinding along a concrete wall for 600 or 700 feet might impair your hearing for a bit.
It sure does.
Big moment on pit road. Everybody's coming in. Labonte is there. Neil Bonnet has just pulled in. Ruttman is in, Allison is in, and there's not quite the pressure of the green flag stops we've seen the last 2 times. They're taking a bit more time to crimp and make them as proper as they can to continue toward the halfway mark.
Well, this is the stop, of course, that Benny Parsons wants to do some adjustments on his car. They're doing some adjustments on that car right now out there.
We're watching as they're getting in car number 59. It looks like it may be on fire out here. There's some problems. Let's go to Larry Newberg.
We are in Kelly Yarborough's pit, and despite the fact they were in just moments ago, crew chief Tim Brewer decided to use this as an opportunity to top off the tank and to also change rubber on
There's
the car.
problems on the track. Car number 59 is on fire. It is caught on fire, and Ty Scott is still in the automobile. It didn't look like he took such a hard blow, but they're having trouble getting him out of the car, getting some assistance, and there is fire in the automobile.
I don't know what's happened. It looks like he might have hurt one of his legs, but it didn't look that hard a hit, really. But of course, well, you just can't tell. Obviously, he is hurt, and he obviously couldn't get out of the car unaided. And it looked at one stage there as if the car was catching fire. and obviously panic set in somewhat.
Safety crews working with Ty Scott. We had a bad crash earlier this week in qualifying. Bill Dennis of Glen Ellen, Virginia, crashed hard here in the Tri-Oval. He is now listed in fair condition here in the Halifax Hospital. At Daytona and the rest of the speedways in the NASCAR circuit, the key word of the drivers is not speed but safety. Racers are constantly trying to make the track a safer place, and Ned Jarrett has this report.
Over the years, NASCAR has had a number of innovations which have made it safer for the drivers on the track, and many of these things have gone on also to be incorporated into the cars, which makes it safer on the highways, such as improved safety belt situations, improved suspensions for the cars, and this year is no different. Remember last year this terrifying accident involving John Anderson? Notice his arm flailing out the window. Safety net didn't work. That car had this old-style safety net, which perhaps is not much stronger than a volleyball net, and it simply fastened at the top, and it came loose in that particular car. But now NASCAR has a new, much stronger net. It is actually bolted at the top, so it should keep the driver and his arms inside. But that's not the only hot item on the circuit this year. In the past, the hottest spot in the race car for the driver is where his right foot sits and depresses the accelerator. It's directly over the exhaust pipe, about 3 inches away. The temperature is sometimes 13 to 1400 degrees Fahrenheit. They have burned big blisters on their feet in the past.
It got so hot in my car that I got third-degree burn on the back of my heel back earlier in the summer. It cooked the meat on the back of my foot and even went in and turned the bottom of the bone black. It cooked it so badly.
In an effort to try to reduce the heat in the past, they've used duct tape, they've used plyboard, they've used asbestos and aluminum, or a combination of all. Richard Petty even uses the buildup on the heat of his boots, but that doesn't seem to work too well. Now there's something new on the market. It comes from the NASA space program. It's a plyboard-looking material, but it'll withstand much more heat than we've seen in the past. They would insert this beneath the floorboard on top of the exhaust pipe, so hopefully the driver's feet will be much cooler than ever before.
88 laps are complete as they bring in the Ty Scott automobile. We'll have an update on that story shortly. Still under caution here in the Daytona 500. Under caution, they have now completed 99 laps. 99 are down to the 200 to be run. There you see the standings as Allison still dominates. Bond at second. Ruttman the surprise in third. Labate is fourth. Here's the attrition. Cars that have fallen out of the race. They now total 14 machines, with Ty Scott, the latest victim of the track. His crash up there in turn number 2 has brought out this third caution period of the day. Let's go to Brock Yates.
Ken, every time we have a crash at a race like this, there are certain people away from the sport that will tell you that all these fans have shown up here to just see such a thing happen. In fact, they'll tell you that they want to see people in race cars hurt or even killed, and that's the only reason they come. Well, I say nonsense. I say, based on my years of experience in this sport, that these people come here to vicariously ride with these drivers, to see them encounter all sorts of adversity and a lot of hazard and a lot of danger, but they want to see them survive. It is the essence of this spectator involvement with this sport to see adventure, confrontation, and survival. When someone is hurt, truly, the crowd is hurt. We've all been at races where people have been injured or even killed, and I don't think there is ever in sport a more awesome pall that is thrown over a large crowd than when a serious accident happens. And I can say that if anybody denies that, they don't know either motor racing or the people who enjoy watching it.
The thoughts of Brock Yates. Now to Ned Jarrett.
They have just brought Ty Scott into the hospital area, Ken. Of course, this is a mandatory situation. When you have an accident of that sort, they bring the driver to the track hospital, check him over if need be. Of course, they'll take him to a nearby hospital where they have more facilities to attend to them. We understand that that they did, of course, carry him to the ambulance, but one of his crew members said he thought that he was conscious. But they are taking him into the track hospital here now, and we'll have a report as soon as we can get one on his condition.
We've had another retiree just now, number 94, Bobby Wowak of Villa Park, Illinois, has just gone back behind the wall. He may try to come back out, but we have 90 laps officially completed, and we're now showing 14 cars have fallen by the wayside. Bill Gasaway up there in the control tower. There's the map of the course, and there you see those indications around there are all the various safety units of the speedway. There's like 7 or 8 ambulances here, fire trucks all the way around the track, various vantage points. They have observers in each of the corners as well as down the straightaway to watch exactly what happens to these cars. Here's Larry Newberg.
The Wood brothers, headed up by Leonard Wood here, have brought a car into victory lane here at Daytona. Is today going to be number 5, Leonard?
Well, I can't tell yet. The track's real slick out there, and the car's kind of slipping around a little bit. And we made a chassis adjustment, hoping that'll help it some. But Allison's really strong, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
What kind of secrets and tricks does your team have up its sleeve? Can you reveal them?
Well, we're just trying to hang on at the moment. Like I said, Allison's real strong, and the track's real slick out there. And we made a chassis adjustment, and hoping that'll help it.
Would you rather be up there with Bobby Allison or with Darrell Waltrip when we come down near the end?
Well, it just depends on which car's running the best, which one you'd rather try to outrun. It doesn't really matter. We'd like to beat both of them if we could.
Well, the Wood brothers have never taken Neil Bonnet to victory lane here, but Neil hopes that changes today.
As we look at the standings with 91 laps complete, we have a Buick in 1st, 4th, and 5th, and the real surprise is that Fords, David, are running 2nd and 3rd. You think the Fords have out-snookered them here?
Well, I think that they've perhaps been laying back a bit. Joe Rutten's been going pretty well all the week, and of course Earnhardt was going extremely strongly in the week and in the race, and it looks like the Fords are going to be in contention at the end of this race. But as Leonard Wood just said, old Bobby Allison looks very, very strong.
There you see the race summary with now 92 laps complete, 10 different leaders, and 19 lead changes among them. The average speed at 154 miles an hour, nowhere near the record. The Wood brothers with the 2nd place car, number 21, Neil Bonnet at the controls. They've won this race on 4 previous occasions. First with Tiny Lund in 1963, Cale in 68, A.J. Foyt in 72, and David Pearson in 1976. A.J. continues to stay out here, keep running. Things have not been going well with the car. They're out of the lead lap at the present time, but the mere fact of his presence in this event speaks to the rugged individual that A.J. Foyt is after that terrible crash that he had at Michigan back on July 25th a year ago.
It's a very long race, of course, for him to make his comeback in. 500 miles around here at Daytona is very, very tiring on man and machine. And if he can pull this one off, he certainly is indeed the Iron Man.
But the big story as well is that Darrell Waltrip Jr. Johnson story. They continue to have that car number 11 right in here. They show up in that lead lap. They're running where Junior likes to run. You don't have to be right up on the point now, but you're right in there with them. And car number latest rundown was being shown in 9th position, in 7th position overall. Waltrip was in the 7th spot and maintaining the 8th position directly behind him. As they line up bumper to bumper, Harry Gant and Ron Bouchard in 9th. In that 10th spot, Gary Ballou. And Ballou started 31st on today's field. What a rambler and scrambler that guy Ballou is. On dirt, he's incredible. He won in Syracuse, New York a year ago, and they said he never had that car straightened the whole race. He was sideways around the mile all day. Bobby Allison going for win number 2 in the Daytona 500. We're under caution, waiting for a further report at this time on Ty Scott. 94 laps complete, getting set for a restart with Bobby Allison first, Bonnet second, Ruthven third, Labonte fourth, Buddy Baker is fifth, Yarborough sixth, Waltrip seventh, Harry Gant is in 8th, Bill Elliott 9th, Benny Parsons 10th, and showing 11th right now is number 42. They're saying Kyle Petty. And let's go to Larry Newberg quickly.
Dale Inman, Joe Ruttman's crew chief, are you guys pleased with the performance of your car up to this point?
Well, we've run real good so far in the race. There's still about quite a few laps to go, and look like Bobby's the quickest car, and we're real fortunate so far to stay real close, and maybe we get a good finish out of it.
Ready to go green, and the top of pit road is Bobby Allison, Ken Squire.
13 cars in the lead lap as they get set to turn them loose another time. Down they come through the 3rd and 4th turn. Bobby Allison has a couple of lap cars directly in front of him. There's the light blue number 75 of Gary Ballou just in front of Allison. And the car up on the point is the number 47, I believe, of Ron Bouchard. Is that right? Just on the tail end of the lead lap. They are on the tail end of the lead lap. There's the 12th and 13th cars as they get set to go. Now we're back with Joe Ruttman's car, number 2. Remember, he's in 3. Slower cars down the inside, David, and the fast machinery up in the outside lane.
There we see Morgan Shepard, and we see the other safety car of Jody Ridley, number 90, as Joe Ruttman sweeps by as they go over the start-finish line here. Joe Ruttman in that high lane because he's number 2 in the race, number 4 on the road, but he's third in the race.
Bobby Allison. That car has run well for 9 straight days. It hasn't missed a lick. And here it is behind the cars that he's about to overlap. They're in the lead lap, both Ron Bouchard and Gary Ballou, but Allison sets his sights on putting them 1 lap down.
They're not having it. Ron Bouchard and Gary Ballou don't want to be a lap down in particular.
No, indeed. Struggling to stay with the leaders. Bouchard, Ballou. Allison just watches them out a little. Remember, these are 2 relative youngsters to Grand National Racing. Before he takes his shot, he wants to know exactly where they're going to go.
Yeah, I bet he does. 195 mile an hour. You want to be very sure that you know where they are. And you want to be sure that they know that you're there.
There's Ruttman dropping down to the inside of the Dave Marcus car. Marcus is a lapped automobile running 15th. Remember, Ruttman, number 2, is in 3rd. And there's Allison dropping to the inside. Takes Ballou, Florida runner, and he goes after Ron Bouchard of Pittsburgh, Massachusetts, puts him a lap down, and here comes Neil Bonnet on the inside.
Neil Bonnet being sucked through there by his friend Bobby Allison. Uses the draft from Bobby to pull himself underneath Ballou and Bouchard. Leaving out number 2, our cameraman, who is still stuck behind those 2 cars.
And this is the perfect setup for Allison. His protege, Neil Bonnet, another member of the Alabama gang, is with him. And you can be sure those 2 have intentions of breaking away from the rest of the field. They possibly can't. Ruttman needs to make a move right now if he wants to stay with them.
Ruttman has to get past Ballou and Bouchard, unlap himself, and then put a lap down on those 2 and really get up with Bonnet and Allison, because in this business, these 2 are 2 of the absolute best.
Bobby Allison up in that front position. He's won this race 1 time. Cale Yarborough's won it twice. Richard Petty, a phenomenal 7. Allison trying to change the record on the little here today. Ruttman in the 125-mile qualifiers went from 1st to 8th position in the length of a short straightaway, one of these short shoots, and he got trapped outside the draft. Here's a 360 shot all the way around the speedway from the blimp as you see them. Going down into turn number 3. Looking like beads on a necklace as they wheel around up on that 31-degree banking.
Doesn't look really steep from there, does it? Look at that number 1, that red car in the middle of the pack there, very, very close to the wall. That was Buddy Baker in car number 1.
Just some idea, too, of the multitude that is gathered for this festival of speed at Daytona.
Joe Ruttman still stuck behind Ron Bouchard and Gary Ballou, although I suppose stuck wouldn't be a very good word at 195 mile an hour.
Halfway this time by. 100 laps down, 100 laps to go. Richard Petty is running a lap down. The latest report had him at 18th. For Petty.
But I still wouldn't count him out.
He's been a lap down here on occasion to come back and want it. Halfway indicator. Harold Kinder puts it on him.
The blue flag, of course, he was waving there with just some of the slower cars. It's the passing flag, and it's an indication to somebody that a faster car is coming up, and you must let him by. That's the theory, anyway.
So there are the standings, 250 miles into it. Still holding on to the draft. Following along, Joe Ruttman trying to work his way through those lap cars.
We're back on NASCAR Classics, the 1982 Daytona 500. I'm Matt Yoakum along with Bobby Allison. And Bobby, you've been dominating the event thus far, but a huge decision was in the making concerning fuel mileage. You and your team gambled, deciding to stay out. Were you worried about the call?
Well, You know, it was a risky call. Certainly, we were really low on fuel, but if our fuel tank had been prepared properly, we had enough fuel to get to the end of the race.
Was that fuel call part of your pre-race game plan?
There's always a chance that one of these races will go a fuel mileage kind of a situation, and I had noticed that so many of the standard fuel cell setups would begin to suck air with still 2 or 3 gallons left in the tank. And so Gary talked with me about that and made a little rig that I suggested that was a swivel pickup that would go to wherever the fuel was, and it worked really good.
We're headed to the final laps of the race. Let's return to Daytona.
Just completing 146 of the 200 laps in a dead heat for first place. Junior Johnson and Darrell Waltrip, the dream team, begin to show their muscle a little and try to fight their way in. It's Waltrip up on the outside. They've held back. Now they're making their bid in the late going. Here's Joe Ruttman with our camera car going to second place, falling back Bobby Allison. This is when you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. Here's a report from Larry Newber on A.J. Foyt's car.
Well, one of the men responsible for changing the rubber on A.J.'s car is Cecil Taylor. Cecil, the last time in, you changed no tires. Why?
A.J. just didn't feel like it was necessary. He said the car was working pretty well the way it's running. We just went for the fuel and get back out.
More action at the other end of the pits with Ned Jarrett.
And a happy fellow here, Robert Harrington, who is the team manager for J.D. Stacy operations, and he's the crew chief today on Jim Salter's car. You got him up there running second and third, and Salter is doing a whale of a job out there.
Well, Jim's got it all right now. I mean, we did ours in the shop. It's all up to him right now. He's doing a super job.
When is the next pit stop scheduled?
In about 6 more laps.
Will that be your final one then?
We're hoping so.
You're hoping so. Okay, Ken. It won't be long till we'll see some more strategy unfurled here in these final pit stops.
Meanwhile, the 6th place automobile, Harry Gantz, number 33, the Bandit, is on pit road. He's making his pit stop right now, and he's away. They went around on rubber, and you're with Harry as the handsome one gets back on the attack.
I mean, he changed all 4 tires then, which on the green stuff like that seems to be taking a bit of a risk. And of course, he's just gone down a lap to the leaders, as you can see them climbing 2 turns 1 and 2 there.
Leaders just flashing by as Harry comes back to full speed. Down at the bottom, now assumes his position as he gathers up some RPMs a little further up on the racetrack. Back straightaway. Boy, if they can all get their pit stops together, I'll tell you, we are going to have some kind of finish. There is Darrell Waltrip now leading. Joe Ruttman hangs in second place. Can't say enough for the technical crew here today. We were getting some incredible pictures, all of them just doing a terrific job. Bob Brown doing the switching and just staying on top of what is a most difficult event. I've always said that it was like a golf event stretched out over a couple of miles, 40 participants. Something can change the entire race at any moment, at any place. The only difference is instead of walking from hole to hole, these guys are trucking along about 194 miles an hour. Here's number 11, Darrell Waltrip. Won an incredible amount of money last year, nearly $700,000 in winnings for Darrell Waltrip. In second spot, Joe Ruttman, a relative unknown, but what a superb job he's driven. If you know anything about the Ruttmans, they're tough. A.J. Foyt has just gone to the garage area. A.J. Foyt just skimmed down pit road, made a quick left turn, and put it away in his comeback. A.J. Foyt, number 15, falling back into the 18th spot, now retires from the event.
Well, that makes 21 retirees. I can't remember a race where there's been quite so much attrition. This is a tremendous race of retiring.
Well, there's 2 elements here. I can't remember as high an attrition in the Daytona 500 in several years, but neither can I remember this many cars this late in the going still having to fight out the fray car.
That, you're having a close-up look there at Darrell Waltrip's car, closer than most of us would like to be at that speed, as Joe Ruttman pulls himself up into second spot.
Joe Ruttman trying to give his wife Harpo the biggest Valentine she's ever had. The Daytona 500 hanging on in second place as he goes back to the tri-oval. Nips it down in there.
And then right behind Rutland, we can see Bobby Allison, that car number 88, having a go at Bobby Allison. A little bit of smoke, a little puff of smoke there off. Is that off Darrell Waltrip's car?
It is off Waltrip's car. Waltrip falling to the inside, and you're watching the leader go away.
And there goes Darrell Waltrip's engine.
And now it's a battle back to the line. Waltrip expires on the back straightaway. Engine detonates. Waltrip out, and they're racing back to the line for position. And this is the perfect break they needed, unless this thing stays under green. It still looks like it's under green. There's no caution thus far. Waltrip has dropped to the inside of the track, coming down to the tri-oval.
Coming down on an errant back marker, running down the middle of the street there.
No caution. No caution. He was on the inside, and they don't believe there's anything on that back straightaway.
And up the third spot there, that white car is Cale Yarborough. There's Darrell Waltrip pulling into the pit area. No doubt he'll take it straight behind pit wall.
22nd car to retire. And for the Dream Team, this 500 becomes a nightmare. Allison again in front. And for the first time, you don't see somebody banging right on the rear bumper, or where there used to be a bumper. He lost the bumper in the very first incident of the day.
There's our
camera car right there, number 2.
And there right behind him is Cale Yarborough. I just can't hardly believe how Cale Yarborough stayed in that position with all that fracas of spinning at turn 2 and getting back to the pits. But there he is right behind this man, Joe Ruttman. Right there is old Caleb.
Cale Yarborough back there in third spot.
And in fact, these three seem to have pulled out a reasonable gap now to the fourth car, which is Terry Labondi. Car number 44. Cale Yarborough getting just a little tad close there. I think he
wants to get his picture.
There he goes to do the draft. The slingshot doesn't work. Drops back again as they come up to turn 4 here. Turn 3.
That's Jim Sauter in the pits. The Wisconsin campaigner coming back out.
Well, that's lap 153. There's no way, I don't think, that he can do 47 more laps, so James Sauter probably have to stop again.
So it begins to sort out.
So if these guys start making pit stops within the next 4 or 5 laps, they're going to have to make at least one more, but it'll be a real quickie near the end. And there's a great shot of Cale Yarborough right behind Joey Ruttman.
That's Cale in third. Car from whence those pictures coming, running second here in this near $1 million payoff. The first race of the season. They used to start at Riverside, California. Now race number 1 is here at Daytona, and they'll end the season at Riverside, California next November.
Tremendous amount of buffeting. You can see the spoiler on the back of the Stacy car there flapping about. You can also see Cale's hood as it flaps quite violently in that breeze. There's Cale really swinging at that wheel as they come through turn 4.
Cale having to fight that car. Looks like the handle has gone away a bit in car number 27. Tires getting a little down. Look at Cale as he came out of the tri-oval. He has to pick it up. That's what you don't want to do, is turn right as you come off those corners.
He's really hanging on there hard. He's having to work pretty hard. But if anybody can work hard in this sort of racing, it's old Cale Yarborough. He's one of the toughest guys I think I've ever met.
Absolutely.
He's the original no-neck monster.
Now up in front is Bobby Allison. Here right in the middle of things, folks. Right in the middle of the Daytona 500. Up in front of you, Bobby Allison. Right behind you, Cale Yarborough. You're in some of the fastest company there is in the world of motorsport.
And what a great shot it was just a few laps ago. Great for us. Terrible for Darrell Waltrip when we saw the absolute initial going away of that engine as it started to puke out that right-hand exhaust pipe.
If you had to make choices, who would you pick? Allison, a consistent great runner with his car going so well. There's a man checking the tote sheet today.
Getting his pin out.
Joe Ruttman, a relative unknown, but his name is Ruttman, and boy, that means he's a racer. Labonte is on pit road. Cale Yarborough, who's twice won this event.
Okay, Terry Labonte is lying in fourth spot at the moment. Pulls onto pit road and changes outside tyres. Obviously gasses up, but I'm sure at 156 laps, at least 44, he's almost sure to have to stop again at least once, just a real quickie.
That average speed in the last lap when you went all the way around the racetrack in these cars was 191.5 mile an hour average. That's some kind of Valentine's Day trip over to grandmother's house.
Here I go.
but it doesn't need to put him off. They're just coming up the lap. Jim Sauter, car number 5, one of the other Stacy cars. There goes Bobby Allison around Jim Sauter, who's been hanging on so well, but he has just made a pit stop. So when they make their stops, he should unlap himself. Joe Ruttman dropping to the bottom of the banking. Perhaps he's coming in.
Indeed, it looks like Ruttman may be coming in. No, he is staying out.
No, he's coming
making
in.
a late stop. I mean, he came all the way down
he
the road.
couldn't make his mind up why what.
Hard right. Joe Ruttman is coming into the pits. You're with him for what could be his final pit stop. Here's Larry Newbert.
Joe Ruttman comes to a stop. This is one of their scheduled pit stops. Here's the guy who has dominated USAC stock car racing for the past 3 seasons. He's won about a third of all the races he's entered on the USAC stock car schedule. They changed the 2 outside tires. They fill that fuel cell up once again, and Joe Ruttman is off and still among the leaders.
You see that tremendous jerk as the car drops down off the jack. He's very careful not to slip the clutch too much. If you're going to spin anything, you want to spin the wheels, warm up the back tires, change the outside right and the right tires. And he's back on the same lap as the leaders.
Bobby Allison first. Cale Yarborough, after that long slide, has gathered back up and brought the NC Anderson car back out another time. I'm wondering if I can ask Ned Jarrett a question here. We're 159 laps into this race, Ned Jarrett. And that means there are 102.5 miles left. Ned, it seems to me they have to stop one more time.
Kenny, we'll cut them awfully close. Most of the times they can't go over 100 miles, particularly at the speeds that they're running out there now. But we've seen in the past that sometimes they stretch a few extra miles an hour out of them. And I'm sure on these last pit stops that they put every ounce of gasoline in them they could possibly get. Let's report on A.J. Foyt here. He, of course, pulled his car into the garage. He had an engine problem with it. A.J. is pretty disgusted. He didn't want to talk to anyone. And now let's go to Larry Newbert on pit road.
Well, Bobby Allison is soaring right at you. Here he comes for what he hopes to be at least his second to lap stop. And if all things go super well and they pull a rabbit out of the hat, maybe he can milk out this load of fuel to the end of the race. But that's unlikely. They'll try and slosh as much as they possibly can into this car. If we have lengthy caution flags in the last quarter of the race, you never know. This stop might work. 13.6 seconds on Allison, outside rubber and new fuel.
One of the cars that we're overlooking today, and very, very strong, is the Ford from Dawsonville, Georgia, of Bill Elliott. He has 2 brothers, and they come in here and they flip a coin to see who's going to be crew chief. They don't seem to take it too seriously, but they race very well. And right now, that car is running up in the top positions. Running back in 6th at the present time, Bill Elliott.
There we see Cale Yarborough, who's also put a lap on Jim Sauter, but of course Cale is going to have to come into the pits probably this lap. I don't see how they can do 40 laps. We had Dale Earnhardt running out in the very early stages of this race on about lap 32. Well, they've still got 40 laps to go. If they can do 40 laps, someone better get the measuring jar out, I think.
That's right. 100 miles remain at this moment in the Daytona 500, the 24th edition, which has been as good as it's ever been. Here is Bobby Allison fighting his way up from 2nd spot as Cale Yarborough in number 27 gets ready to pit. Cale is coming onto pit road. Now he could be within the veil. He might make it all the way to the checkered flag.
When you're running at 193, 194 miles an hour, which is still the laps they're turning in this race, you do use rather a lot of fuel.
Watching the pit time on Cale Yarborough, I tell you those last 2 or 3 laps are going to be frantic and frenzied. And oh my kingdom, for maybe a pint, even a half a pint of fuel.
15.3 seconds, and he changed the inside tires, which is, I would have thought, rather unusual.
The leader, Bobby Allison, at 160 laps, 400 miles, the average speed, 147.164, far off the record.
Swept by Cale Yarborough as he pulls out of the pits, just a little bit too far in front for Cale to pick him up as a draft.
Here's Ned.
Darrell Waltrip has already had time to take a shower and get back out into the crowd here, Ken. Darrell, that thing just sort of went without warning.
Yeah, it did. But we wanted to improve over last year, so I think we finished a little higher up than we did last year anyway.
Well, you had to because you ran longer in the race, and you're also in the lead when it happened. Boy, that has to be a disappointment.
Well, I'm real disappointed, Ned. I really had it going, and
I really think I had the only car out there right now that could beat Bobby. He doesn't have any trouble. He's home free. His car's really handling and running good, and we adjusted ours, and it really helped, and we were right there with him, but that's it.
Bobby's been running most of the race without a rear bumper. Would that help him or hurt him?
Well, let's say it'll help him today, because it looks like something is.
It sure does. Okay, Ken, that's the story from the garage area.
Now 163 laps complete, just 37 to go. The leader is Bobby Allison, the second place man, Joe Ruttman. The Alabama gang has their best right up on the point. No question about Bobby Allison, 65 career wins. Ron Bouchard is pitting right now. Car number 47 is on pit road. He's running back in 10th spot, a lap down. But it's Allison. Allison the story at the moment. Joe Ruttman in second. Cale Yarborough third. Labonte is fourth. Jim Sauter maintaining fifth position. We're back with you live at the Daytona 500. We're coming up towards a finish which could be remarkable. They're in for those last pit stops. Some of them may have to pit one more time. Right now, it appears Bobby Allison in front has the best shot at it. But remember, he will have to come in again, they predict. Cale Yarborough, perhaps not. Marginal on Joe Ruttman, and the drama continues to build. And the interval is 3 seconds, the biggest interval of the day. Right now, Joe Ruttman trying to move up. Look at him fighting that car, still trying to stay in this thing and pull it out. He's running second. And what a story Ruttman is. His brother Troy Ruttman won Indy. Joe Ruttman never drove till he was in the 30s as a racer. He backed his nephew, Troy Ruttman Jr., until Troy Jr. was killed in a super-modified race at Pocono, Pennsylvania. And at that point, Joe Ruttman decided he would try it for himself. And Joe Ruttman right now is having the greatest day of his racing career. Let's go to Ned Jarrett.
And let's do an update on those that have been taken to the hospital. Of course, the first one was Ty Scott. He has been removed to a local hospital for further checks, but he was conscious. He did have a concussion, but no other broken bones, according to a member of his family. Of course, Neil Bonnett, we talked to, he was in the hospital, checked over and released. Richard Petty has been released, but he's going for x-rays a little later today. He does have a foot injury, but other than that, everything's okay. Benny Parsons, who was also involved in the Bonnett Petty wreck, walked to the hospital, had him to check him over. He said, I'm just hurting all over, and I expect after a lick of that sort that that's not too unusual. But Benny walked out, and he is okay and on his way to North Carolina now. A.J. Foyt, we said, had engine problems. Our men here in defense have corrected us on that. They say that he had some tire problems, but nothing major. He just parked it, and he was mad, and he left the racetrack. But a fellow who's still in there and going strong is Bobby Allison, and Larry Newber is in his pit right now.
Well, this is Gary Brewer, the crew chief on Bobby Allison's race car. You stopped at lap 160. Most people up and down pit road don't think you can go 100 miles, can you?
Oh, yeah, we can go 100 miles. I'm really not too worried about that. I'm worried about everything else, though.
So you have made your last stop that's going to be required because of fuel. You can go the rest of the way.
That's right, Larry. We can go the rest of the way on fuel. If everything else stays together, we're looking pretty good.
You mentioned you were worried about other things. What else?
About every nut and bolt on that race car.
Well, that's when, of course, these race cars make the most noise, Ken and David, when they're out front and running seemingly with ease.
Okay, and here we see the shot out of Joe Ruttman's car of Cale Yarborough running him down. Joe running in second spot, Cale Yarborough running in third, and Cale bringing along a whole train of other guys with him, including Terry Labonte and Jim Sauter in car number 5. In some ways, it'd be a help for Ruttman if Cale did catch him up, because then maybe they could draft together and try and make up some of the ground, the 6 odd seconds that lies between them and our leader, Bobby Allison. There we see 86, Morgan Shepherd. Trying to pull up alongside Cale.
But if Morgan Shepherd stays down, and that would slow them up a little. Allison, the leader, shepherding car number 88.
Jim Sauter couldn't get it stopped when he came into the pits. What a tough break for a fellow who has been running right up there with the leaders all day.
So we have 6 cars continuing in the lead lap. Out back on the lead lap is Harry Gant, the Bandit. He runs in 5th in that lead lap. Then comes Labonte in 4th. 3rd is that number 27 of Cale Yarborough. In 2nd, the yellow and blue car of Joe Ruttman. And up in front, as we watch, Sauter coming back, circling around very slowly on the apron. And once again, you're looking out at Bill Elliott's car. from the number, I think that's the 33 car we're getting these pictures from. Bill Elliott is running 7th overall on the field. And he's gone a lap down. Now there's one getting an interesting view of this battle going on. Bill Elliott holding right in there, just about a foot off the rear bumper. There's the leader, Allison. His interval now a little better than 3 seconds. And there is second place, hotly contested. Cale Yarborough has it for the moment. Terry Labonte has gone to third. Ruttman now dropping to fourth.
These three guys need to concentrate on getting a good draft going, because Bobby Allison's pulling inexorably away. He's 10 seconds in front now.
175 laps are complete. It's dwindled down to 25 laps remaining, and there's the interval between the first place car and this 4-car battle for second spot. He's really expanded on that lead. 10 and 9/10 seconds. Can Bobby Allison stay there? He's been racing here since 1961 at the Daytona Speedway. He won this race in 1978 for Bud Moore. Car number 98 has just run its last lap. Morgan Shepherd showing some smoke, and he was coasting into 1 and 2 and slowing down on the inside of the track. Here's Ned Jarrett.
Well, Jim Sauter is trying to get back into the pits now, Ken. The crew has gone out to try to slow that car down. They'll get him stopped. But boy, this has really cost him a lot of time. But can you imagine? They're going to change tires on the car, and they're going to fill it up with gasoline, and I guess they'll send it back out there. But can you imagine going out there and running at 190 miles an hour without brakes? Robert Harrington now is looking under the hood to see if he can see what the problem is with the brakes. Well, it is legal that he can go under the hood on pit road and look and see what the problem is. He thinks that maybe a brake line is broken, and I think he has found it here on that left side. But making a repair quick enough to get him back out to be in any kind of contention, well, I do that about it. But they continue to change the tires, and now he's going up to the master cylinder, and what he'd like to do is cut the brakes completely off of that left front wheel, where apparently it's shooting out the fluid from the master cylinder. So I'm afraid that he's going to be in the pits here for a while, but they're going to get him back as quickly as they can. They have some brake fluid there now that they're about to pour in it. They've closed that line off. It's amazing at how quickly they can do a lot of things. If you go into a garage, it might take at least a half a day to do this, but now they have that thing almost repaired. And, you know, Ken, he's not going to know whether he's got brakes or not till he needs to slow down, and it might be too late then.
That's one way of looking at it, I suppose. Here's Bobby Allison. Bobby Allison's car running incredibly strongly this day.
Jim Sauter falters after a great start here today. CBS Sports live coverage of the Daytona 500 will continue after this word from your local station. Bobby Allison still in front. 19 cars are now on the track. 23 have retired. Back in 1966, 17 cars finished out of a field of 50. That was in 66, and in 76, he had 44 cars running out to start in 17 finish.
There's your second place car, Cale Yarborough.
Bobby Allison in first. Let's go to Ned Jarrett.
Ken, we're still in Jim Sauter's pits. We talked to Robert Harrington, the crew chief, on it, and he says that he will have rear brakes. They shut off the front brakes completely, that the pad had come off of one of the left front there, and that's what caused them to lose brakes altogether. But they have a system on it so where they can shut off either the front or the rear. So they have shut off the front brake, so he does have rear. That'll slow him down at least. Won't stop him quite as quick, though.
Bobby Allison is in first. 5 cars are running the lead lap here as we're down to 185 laps complete, remaining just 15. And there in second place lies Joe Ruttman with number 27. Cale Yarborough in third position. The fourth spot is Terry Labonte, and in fifth is the bandit, Harry Gant. In sixth, a lap down is Bill Elliott. In seventh is Ron Bouchard. In eighth is a scraped-up number 1 of Buddy Baker. In the ninth position is Jody Ridley. And running in 10th right now is Roy Smith, that driver who came down here from Vancouver, British Columbia, with a car that the town put together so that he could race in this event.
There we have another great shot at Cale Yarborough closely following Joe Ruttman. But even though these guys are up in a multi-car draft, which should be giving them an advantage, Bobby Allison is pulling away at a horrifying rate. He's now got nearly an 18-second lead on that second bunch. And how he can run that strongly on his own, he's obviously been sandbagging all the week. Anyway, Ned Jarrett's down there with Dale Inman.
one year ago today, this man Dale Inman was in the crew chief on Richard Petty's car. The car was running in second place in the late stages of the race. Here he is today, the crew chief on Joe Ruttman's car, which is running second. Dale, you're in a similar position. The circumstances appear to be a little different.
48 seconds flat, Joe. 48 seconds flat.
He's telling his driver how fast he ran.
They got me this time because we got to stop for gas, and Bobby's got enough lead that he can stop and go. And I don't know what the other two cars out there do. Labonte stopped before we did. I'm sure he'll have to stop, and I'm not sure about Cale. But our car's just not running good enough to catch Bobby. We need a caution, but we don't need to cause it. So we'll just have to stop, put a little gas in, and go and get all we can get.
When you said they got you, does that mean that you got to stop and you don't know about them?
I don't know about Bobby, and I don't know about Cale. I know Terry will, but, you know, you still got to get in and out of the pits.
You'll just take on gas?
Gas only.
Okay, they'll make a very quick pit stop like they did with Richard Petty here a year ago, but the difference is they have to do that this time, and he doesn't know if the others will have to or not.
Well, Bobby Allison, I know, would have to have run at least 40 laps, and I see that Cale Yarborough had only got 38 laps to go. He was the last man to stop, so in theory he might just be able to make it, but I reckon even 38 laps is really pushing it. If Bobby Allison goes through to the end of this race without stopping, it'll be a miracle.
Certainly we owe a great debt of thanks to Dale Inman, Joe Ruttman, Jim Stacy, and their entire crew for the time they've allowed us in getting that camera set up and giving you those great pictures you've seen. And the same can be said for Hal Needham and Bert, Travis Carter, the crew chief, Harry Gant, the driver on car 33. Their cooperation has been terrific, and certainly to Jeff Healy and this crew that has brought these cameras from Australia. They've certainly given us some of the most exciting moments we've ever witnessed on television in the world of motor racing. Will Allison win it? We'll know shortly. Well, Brent, the moment is here. 120,000 racing enthusiasts at the birthplace of speed sense that it's coming down to an issue on pit road, a matter of seconds getting in and out for Bobby Allison that could make the difference in his second win, or give Joe Ruttman, the dark horse, the relative unknown, an incredible Daytona 500 victory, or perhaps Cale Yarborough, who's running right there with him, or Terry Labonte. For David Hobbs, I'm Ken Squire. Down in the pits today, we have Ned Jarrett, Larry Newber, Brock Yates is with us. Delighted to bring you this great racing epic. And in the final moments, that pit stop is taking place on car number 2, Ruttman. Let's go to Larry Newber.
Well, a year ago, a pit stop just about at this time was what won the race for Dale Inman and then his driver Richard Petty. But the stop today, it was just a very, very brief gulp of fuel. Is probably going to be what will keep his driver out of victory lane. Ken?
They still have to be delighted with Ruttman's performance here today. The name Ruttman almost spells race as far as many Americans are concerned. His father built the cars, the sprinters with which Troy Ruttman toured in the old 3A days and broke all the track records at the fairgrounds across America. Then Troy became the youngest man ever to win at Indianapolis, and now his brother has just made his pit stop, and he stays right in the lead hunt. Meanwhile, Allison has to pit shortly. Let's go to Ned Jarrett.
And we're in Cale Yarborough's pits with Tim Brewer, the crew chief on the car. You're going to have to make pit stop.
Well, Ned, we changed the tires on the car last trip, and we evidently got the stagger messed up. The car got a little bit loose on him, but I believe we can go the rest of the way. I don't know if he can handle the Terry Labonte car, but we're gonna ride it out and see how we do.
But you do have enough fuel?
Yes, we've got enough fuel. We stopped several laps after Bobby, and Bobby's got to run 100 miles to finish, and the question is, can he make it right now?
What do you think?
I'm betting on him not finishing, but I know he's going to try. I know I would.
Buddy Baker is coming in just for a dash of gas as we're talking to Tim Brewer here, so we'll see what his prognostication is, whether he can make it or not. Okay?
18.5-second lead for Bobby Allison over Terry Labonte. Now in second, Cale Yarborough third. Ruttman drops to fourth in the overall standings with fifth, Harry Gant. The question is, will Allison have to pit? Will he have to come in? There he is with Ron Bouchard. Bouchard is running a lap down in 7th place. In 6th place is Elliott. Gant is also being shown as a lap down. Field coming by. Let's get this audio report from Larry Newber.
Well, Ken, most of the other crews say that there's no way they can go 100 miles on one load of fuel. But the Allison crew, from crew chief to Judy Allison, Bobby's wife, who has been keeping the charge, insists they can go the distance, maybe even with a couple of extra laps. They will not pit. They are going to this on what they were able to sneak into that gas tank the last time he stopped.
So Allison is still there. Can he stay there? What do you think, David?
Well, obviously one has to go with the prior knowledge of these other crew chiefs. Gosh, Ron Bouchard really got all crossed up there. And what was I saying? Yeah, well, I would have thought that he'd be very positive because everybody was coming in on about lap 32 the first time round, and nobody's gone more than about 35, 36 laps yet. If he can suddenly do over 40 laps, well, that's pretty good. How he's doing it, we don't know.
Allison came here for the first time in 1961, then missed for 4 years, came back in 65, and has been here every year since.
Terry Labonte coming into the pits, and it looks like he's run out of fuel.
Indeed, Labonte is coasting down at a turn number 4. Number 9, Bill Elliott. 6th place car. Overlapped for a second time by the leader, Bobby Allison. Will this be his 66th win? Or will he come up winning this race by a gulp? 197 laps are complete. 3 laps remain in the Daytona 500, and there is Terry Labonte. Car being pushed frantically. It fires. 2 to go.
Got it going. It had run right out of fuel. It took them all that time to get the fuel pumped up in the tank back to the engine before it had fired. Larry Nuber.
Terry Gant is on pit road. Gant pitting number 33. 5th place car is on pit road. Meanwhile, we're down to it. Will 88 create its own energy crisis here, or will it go home and win the 500? 24th running, looking for his second win. Comes into the tri-oval. White flag is out. This is it. Final lap. In second place now is car number 27, Cale Yarborough. Quick word from Larry Nuber.
You said you might be a little concerned about this last lap. Bobby has not been drafting.
Right. It consumes a lot more fuel now to run in the draft. We just got him hooked up with the 47 car 10 laps ago, but I think we got it now.
Well, less than a half ago, Ken. How's he doing?
Looking good. He's pulling up on car number 2, trying to put the Rutland car a lap down in the final moments. Here it comes. A sprint to the finish. Allison coming down. And he's right behind Rutland as they come to the line. Down the checkered flag about to come out. And sprinting to it is number 88. Bobby Allison has won the Daytona 500 for the second time in his career. Fender flapping a little as he came across. Second place, number 27, Cale Yarborough, twice a winner of the 500. And the terror of Timmonsville fighting that steering wheel right to the finish line. Cale Yarborough for second spot. Gary Ballou right behind him out of the top 10 as they come to the line. The third position will go to car number 2, our in-car camera machine. Joe Rutland being shown as third. What a race he's driven.
There we see him coming off turn 4.
Coming down to take the checkered flag. You're with Joe Rutland. Now you're back with number 88, Bobby Allison, as he circulates around the track and takes a deep breath. Well, he pulled it off. Bobby Allison has won his second 500, becomes only the second man in history to do so. Cale's won it twice. Now Bobby's won it twice. There's Cale Yarborough, who has finished second today. The 67th career win for Bobby Allison comes in the biggest one of them all, the classic, the Daytona 500. The other teams applauding as he rode down pit road and shortly moves to victory lane. Renette Jarrett will be standing by, and here is Joe Rutland on his cool-off lap. Thank you, Joe. And he just lets her coast up through the banking a little here. Here is Bobby Allison and his wife, Judy. His son, Davey, was here racing earlier this week. His brother making a comeback after his terrible, horrific crash at Charlotte, North Carolina last year in the World 600, which you saw on Memorial Day here on CBS. And now Bobby Allison is about to grace victory lane. Number 88, the Dygard Racing Team, swapping drivers this year. And an ecstatic combination of crew members, some of his enthusiasts and scorers, pushing this, what has been rocket ship, now 3,700-pound chunk up into the victory area. And there is Joe Ruttman headed back where all the other folks go, the garage area, when these things are over. The winner, Bobby Allison, pulls into victory lane.
I know you feel all right.
How does he get something to drink before they've even got him out of the car? I don't understand that.
Well, they gave him pit lane. On your way, Bill. But, well, he had a very much blessed race with Bobby Allison today.
A word from Ned Jarrett.
Well, Bobby Allison, as you can see, has a big smile on his face here as he unbuckles his safety helmet and the other safety paraphernalia, of course, that is mandatory in NASCAR racing. He's had a good couple of weeks here at Daytona. Of course, he won the Clash a week ago today and looked like was going to win the 125-mile qualifier on Thursday and got passed right at the line by Cale Yarborough, and Terry Labonte, I believe, was right in that thick of that too. But anyway, he wound up in third place and figured that he was such a contender in everything that went on here. He's in a brand new ride, the first time that he's driven this Jim Gardner Dygard on number 88. Now he comes out of the car and waves to the crowd. That's a great reception. He was the most popular driver in 1981, an award that is voted on by his peers. Bobby, congratulations.
Thank you, Ned. I have to say the old Gatorade Dygard bunch really did it for me today. The car ran good, it handled good, they had great pit stops. I'm just tickled.
Well, I can see that and see why. Now, you lost that bumper early in the race. What effect did it have on the car?
Well, it made the car looser, and I was real worried for a while, but Gary adjusted on the car some for me, and or had the boys adjust on it, and they got it better and better as the day went on. So finally, it went pretty good except in the tri-oval. It really was wormy in the tri-oval, and before we lost the bumper, it was not.
Quite a contrast from a year ago today.
Yeah, it really is. You know, there was all sad faces last year, all glad ones this year.
Bobby, were you out of gas there at the end or close to out?
You had to quit on pit road, Ned. That's why they had to push it in.
Well, boy, I'll tell you, you'll have an extra pair to say tonight. Well, his wife Judy is here with him, and a lot of jubilation in victory lane, Bobby.
Right, Ned, and I want to say I love Ronald Reagan.
All right, now back to Chris.
Bobby Allison, the winner of the 1982 Daytona 500, and we'll be back with more in just a moment.
Bobby Allison, congratulations.
At an average speed of 153.991 miles per hour, Bobby Allison has recorded his second victory in the Great American Race, the Daytona 500. And for a closing thought about what we've seen here today, let's go to Brock Yates.
Thank you, Ken. Actually, two thoughts. One, they say in this sport that there's no place except first place. There is no second place. But today, there was clearly a second place. Cale Yarborough's effort was incredible. 190-mile-an-hour spin off turn 2, recovered. We have to know that that chassis was messed up in that ride across the grass, and yet he manhandled that automobile all afternoon. He's a terribly plucky man, but a very skillful man. And in this case, not to take anything away from Allison, surely the master driver of the day has to be Cale Yarborough's. The other thought is that we had some bad crashes here, and yet these automobiles, great old iron horses that they are, brought everybody through safely. A lot of people say that they're kind of crude. They don't have all those wonderful aerodynamic devices and titanium and space-age fabrication techniques that Formula cars have. But I'll take them every time because they demand the best of a driver, and when the driver loses them, they walk away from them. And I think they deserve an awful lot of credit.
You are so right, Brock Yates. Just amazing the amount of abuse those cars took today and came through and gave us such a great race right to the final moments, David.
Well, you can't help but say it was Bobby Allison's day. His car caused the first major wreck of the day. He was about 200 feet in front of the second major wreck of the day. He seemed to have more power than anybody else. He seemed to go further on the gas tank, so he couldn't really want a better day, actually.
It was by 22 and 8/10 seconds which Bobby Allison defeated Cale Yarborough in second spot. Joe Ruttman coming across in third today. And they just told us Terry Labonte is recording fourth, with Bill Elliott fifth, Ron Bouchard sixth. Harry Gant coming across in seventh, and then it was Buddy Baker in 8th place. I want to thank so many people, particularly the folks in the truck for the great pictures, and the people here at the Daytona Speedway, Jim Hunter, Jim Foster, and all the rest who made it happen. For Larry Newber and Ned Jarrett, Brock Yates, David Hobbs, I'm Ken Squire. Thank you for being with us to enjoy the 24th running of the great American race, the Daytona 500.
Bobby's never been one to chase the limelight, if you will. He always let his driving and his actions speak for him. I think so many people in this sport have benefited from being near Bobby or watching him, or as I did early on, just admiring him before I knew him, and then getting to know him and finding out that he is what he puts out. If any young driver wanted to understand what's going on, spend a day with Bobby Allison and you could figure it out.
Bobby Allison's second career Daytona 500 victory was the start of another career year that would see 8 wins in all. After the race, Bobby, your fellow competitors were talking about the 147 laps you led without your rear bumper. What were they saying to you after the race?
Well, most of them were pretty that we had won. A few of them thought, well, maybe it had a good effect. A few of them even thought it had a bad effect. So we didn't have much back talk at all about that.
Was the second win more gratifying than the first? And was there a big difference?
The first Daytona 500 win was an incredible deal. I was sick and the car was wrecked, and Bud Moore and his guys worked so hard getting that thing back together. And then to come from that far back in the field and get that win, that probably outshines my other Daytona wins.
Now, did the controversy about the bumper coming off, did that kind of tarnish the win in a way, or take away some of the specialness of winning the Great American Race for the second time?
Not for me, it didn't. I knew that the bumper was knocked off, it didn't fall off. We didn't release it, it got knocked off. Had it not got hit, it would have stayed there all day, and I'm sure we would have won the race anyway. So I had no personal problem with that at all.
Bobby, thanks for joining me and giving us your recollections of a great day. That 78 500 win ended a 67-race winless streak for Bobby. His 82 Daytona 500 win was a 67th of his career. I'm Matt Yoakum. Be sure to join us next time on NASCAR Classics.
Down to the flag, but green is out. The 500 is underway.
And there's something broken away from the car there going through turn 4. It looked like the rear spoiler.
Let's see who it came off from.
It was right as a car in the wall.
Bobby Allison has won.